Hello, everybody. A small technical hiccup, but we are here, like we were talking about, for a wonderful weekend of CBLOL English. Kicking us off this weekend is a matchup between VKS and Leviathan. I am SuperBren. I'm joined here by my good friend RandomMinionCaster, or RMC, and we were talking about, just after the crash, but before we kind of realized what had happened. Uh, this weekend is kind of an odd matchup between two teams that we've struggled to really categorize.
Yeah, and you're seeing, of course, the fact that it is the CBLOL Cup Carnival today. It is Carnival down in Brazil. It's Valentine's in the Western world, and Carnival down there. You might also have seen during the walkout an unfamiliar face. So, Brent, let's quickly just touch on the teams. We've got Leviathan versus VKS. A bit of a surprise. We are in the elimination side of the playoffs right now. So, it'll be our first best of 5 loser goes home. And for VKS, our reigning champions, a bit of a surprise to see them here in the first round of eliminations. Another surprise to not see Miryu in the mid lane. That new face is Quats, their academy mid laner, who's filling in because, Miryu, I think he got a little bit overtaken with the whole carnival sort of vibe and might have said certain things in solo queue that crossed certain lines and got himself benched.
So yeah, Miryu going to be off the Rift today for some punitive action. Said some things that were not acceptable in Brazil, and so he's facing a pretty hefty fine and, of course, a suspension for this series. That means we do have Quats subbing in, and that, as we kind of talked about, and as we'll touch on in the future, we're not actually sure how much that's going to change the game plan for VKS, considering that Miryu wasn't really the focal point of the team, at least so far this split.
For sure, Kate Stars has been struggling a lot, and originally we had a graphic prepared about Miryu because he was kind of like the player we were looking at to step up for VKS, one of the top 2 mid laners last year, but he got himself benched, so we had to change the graphic, and now we are looking at Miryu versus Quats. And statistically, this is interesting because, first of all, just a quick look at the past versus present. You can see that Miryu last year was doing much better than he is this year in general. And one of the stats I kind of highlight is his damage per minute. It was much better last year. He was top of the league, beating out even Kaze for DPM among mid laners. And he wasn't dying as much as he is this year.
That's what stands out to me, RMC, is that first blood victim percent is insane.
Yeah, so those are stats compared to himself. Now, if we compare him to Quats, who's stepping in for him, that to me is interesting. Because, to be fair, Quats' stats are coming from CD, Tier 2, Circuito Desafiante from last year. But statistically, he's not far off. His kill participation is very close. His KDA is double what Miryu was pulling this year. The first blood victim rate, well, Brent, that's like a third of what Miryu is suffering. And the DPM is the other stat I'm kind of looking at, where Quats was a big carry for VKS Academy. The gold difference at 15, though, is fairly similar, which worries me a little bit, because Miryu has been struggling in lane. And while Quats stepped up a lot in CD last year for his laning, traditionally, well, you might see Lunar's comment in the chat there where it said that we call him Oat sometimes because of his bland champion pool and playstyle. His laning is very unexciting.
Well, maybe that's just what VKS need, right? They just need someone to be there and just kind of exist as a body for now and not necessarily lose them the game. Because I don't think it's going to be fair to expect an exciting, high-octane brand of League of Legends from Quats today. This is his first time ever playing on the big stage in Tier 1.
Yeah, and we talked about how when Morteus made his debut last year, like, hey, this guy's been in the system for a long time. In Tier 2, he's just been kind of grinding, sharpening his skills for Tier 1. Well, Quats has been in Tier 2 even longer than Morteus has. He's been there since 2021, where he's played on Pain Gaming Academy for most of his career, switched to VKS Academy last year, and now he's getting to make his debut here in the CBLOL once again. Now, the draft is going on. Leviathan so far, very standard picks. The Rumble first pick. They get their hands on Rise as well. So, for Enga, for Devis, for Boki even with the Vi, very comfortable champions we've seen them perform on in the past. Very meta champions that are strong right now. Whereas VKS, they didn't opt for the mid lane focus. They opted for the bot lane focus. They're looking at Morteus to be the big carry for them, slamming that Yunara early. And with no Aphelios answer from Leviathan, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Aphelios banned by VKS.
Yeah, they're going to have that option to kind of prevent one of the fellow hyperscalers that could match the Yunara in the late game and has kind of the utility to stick around and challenge them throughout the map, because Yunara has really one play style. You want to get that ult up, you want to get that, Q going and just rip through enemy teams. Once Yunara is like online, it is insane just the DPM that it just pumps out. But Aphelios, like I said, has that utility, has the ability to contest in different ways that Yunara really can't do, very one note. And so, if they choose to get rid of it, I would not be surprised. But they do have to ban the Kai'Sa first, which, Kai'Sa can set up actually quite a bit of kill lanes. So also, again, not surprising.
Yeah, and the other thing, I guess, with Kai'Sa, specifically with Lev's current composition, the moment you see that Vi slammed in, normally you see some sort of dive to go alongside Vi. But because they opted for the Rumble Vi combo instead, there's no dive right now. If Bookie goes in, he goes in alone. If you at least had the Kai'Sa, the bot lane of CEO and Top Lop could follow up. So I guess that's why they're prioritizing the Kai'Sa ban. But Aphelios, for now, it's still, they're still thinking about it for VKS. And I do worry that they leave it open because, yeah, I mean, maybe they think CEO isn't going to play the Aphelios. He has played it once the split already to great effect. And we were talking about carries for Leviathan. While Bookie has really popped off in the playoffs, getting some really nice invades, while Devis is leading solo kills in the league by more than double the next closest people. He's got 14 solo kills compared to Gigo and Zest's 7. CEO, for my money, is still the big carry of Leviathan. And giving him a favorable matchup is, I feel like, a recipe for a loss.
Perhaps, but CEO is, having to go up against Morteus and Kaiwing, and for all of their struggles that VKS has kind of had across the map, I feel like the people least to blame for that have to be like Morteus and Kaiwing. I think their laning has been pretty fine so far this year.
Yeah. Well, speaking of somebody who has no fault, I feel like on the side of VKS, Bull locking in the Cassante to answer Rumble. Bull has been rock solid for this VKS squad. And it's funny because when you look at this team from VKS, barring Quats, who's now stepping in for Morteus, last year, Bull was the big question mark. When Gigo left for Furia, everybody was a little bit concerned, can VKS stick to the 5-year plan? Because that was unexpected. I think Bull has grown massively. And this year has been sort of the solid focus of the team, has been the one kind of anchoring the team when Desamis and Kaiwing have been struggling to kind of get roams off, when Mirio has been underperforming a little bit, and when Morteus doesn't have a duo in his lane to kind of play 2v2, he's been playing 1v2 quite a bit. We do see the Xayah Rakan from Leviathan, so not anything standard into Yunara. They're trying to stop dive from coming through, question mark? Because the only dive I'm really seeing from Kate Stars right now is the J4. And sure, Nautilus that Kaiwing picked up at the end, but when they lock that Xayah, yeah, sure, Cassante's going to dive, but do you really need Xayah to stop this sort of Cassante, Jarvan, from going into you?
And here's what I want to say is, like, the dive from VKS, I think, is not the traditional, like, team fight. Everybody's going to point and click onto the same guy. They can do that, obviously. You talk about the J4, that's exclusively what he wants to do. But for my money, I think CEO is saying, like, hey, I think we can win in other parts of the lane. We have this, like, very late game scaler there in the mid lane, and I think they're favoring Enga over Quats making his debut. And so Xayah Rakan is very much a lane that's just not going to lose you the game. You're still going to contribute. You're going to do lots of damage. And so even if Quats gets a crazy roam on Talia, you just press R and you're fine. If Kaiwing hits a really good engage, you just press R and you're fine. They're keeping it level. They're keeping it kind of down low and letting the rest of the map play out. Xayah's one of those champions, at least for me. I love playing Xayah when I'm forced to play a marksman, because I can't play marksman all that well. And Xayah just feels so safe all the time. Like, I never feel pressured, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. I do agree with what you're saying, Bren. When I look at CEO, I think his mechanics are good enough that I almost feel like the Xayah is really only there when you're afraid of, like, Vi dives, point and clicks that are going to be going into you and you can't dodge out otherwise. We'll see how it goes, though, because compositionally, I think it's interesting what both teams have drafted. VKS have a very strong front to back with Yunara, but with the Talia vis-a-vis the Rise that Enga has opted for in Leviathan almost feels like they've got more scaling in their favor, right? You've got the Rise, you've got the Xayah, both who scale up fantastically well. And normally I would favor teams that have scaling for front to back, but the Vi Rumble does make me hesitate a little bit. We're not seeing true tanks on the side of Leviathan. And again, with just a Rakan to fill up on the dive for the Vive, Enka and Quats. Quats, welcome to CBLOL. First game on the Rift, and he's just going to throw hands with Enga from the very start. Not really throw hands. Let's just say waving hands, saying hi. It wasn't a
Throw
lot of
rocks.
damage. Yeah. Love taps. You know,
Yeah,
it's like checking rocks at the window, you know, to get your friend's attention.
No,
Redeeming
don't
myself
you
with that.
know what they say about glass houses there, Quats? You gotta be careful if you're gonna throw rocks, because Enga, I feel like, is the guy who will throw them back at you.
Yes, 100%. Well, thankfully, it's a Rise level 1. We've seen Rise level 1s somehow win the lane, but it's not a common thing to see. So Quad should be able to get away with chucking rocks at this stage of the game.
Yeah, and looking out at the map, that's kind of you talked about the scaling, but I kind of want to focus on what this is going to look like early, because Leviathan, for my money, has been kind of weak in the late game. They've really struggled. Not like, even when they have a lead, they don't necessarily. I think 4x4 said this on the podcast. They don't completely just ditch the lane and just completely throw their lead, but they're not stable with it for certain. And so I'm wondering, can they get like ahead enough in the early game that if they have that stumble moment, later, are they still going to be fine?
For now, though, bot lane's looking pretty good with Morteus and Kaiwing being able to punish top lop a little bit for stepping up, especially with the autos. That's important. In the jungle, though, Desamus invading Bookie. Usually we see Bookie invading other people, but Desamus bring the fight to him. And with Quats, I feel like this is something we've not seen too much from Kate Stars. Quats willing to roam out early to reinforce Desamus' aggression.
Desamus continuing to kind of push forward, and you might think it's a bit of a dangerous position, but Quats, I think, favored here to be able to get that rotation first. Everyone's kind of moving over. You see Kaiwing's getting knocked up down there. We're getting a proper fight. Enga flashes in, but Quats continuing to throw the stones over the backside. They get the root down, and that means Enga will take the first blood. But now it's Bookie out on the far side of the map, but the heal from Top Lop gonna get him out, and VKS heavily punished for a bit of overconfidence there. Desamus way too far forward, and Enga and Bookie will punish him for it.
Maybe a bit of false confidence, Bren, by what you're talking about. The fact that Quats should have this early push. The fact that Quats did have the early push and was willing to rotate out, but Enga just ghosting, speeding in there, getting there ahead of Quats. And the fact that Bookie gets out, Bren, is what really tilts me a little bit. The extra speed up from the heal coming through from top lop to make sure nobody can catch up. Yeah, Leviathan make like bandits. They're in, they're out, and they get first blood.
And this is where it kind of starts. Is Desamus uses the flag here, but to no effect. And so now he's got no movement to get away. The Vi gets on top of him. You can see, like I said, Enga popping the ghost, popping the flash to get in there, gets the flux down, and that's a free route. Easy as you like. And Quats is there, but there's no way to follow up. And now this gets kind of difficult here, I think, in this mid lane, because look at Enga. Enga's already gotten boots, already has a tier in the inventory, is going to start stacking up, and Rise is perfectly happy to take those defensive items early. Because now, even if he makes like a quote-unquote losing trade, I don't think Quats can punish him that hard, even with just those few components.
No, and the big difference into items is going to be that Ruby Crystal that came through from Enga. It's not going to necessarily win him the lane, but it makes him that much safer and gives him that much more leeway. Morteus caught out a little bit here, has to pop the barrier.
Getting low, pops the barrier. They do get the root down on the top lop, but they're going to have to continue to back up. They're going to cede all of the pressure in this wave, and Leviathan having the good, kind of bulk of the map control, the lion's share of the pressure around the rift right now, and VKS can't really do much. They've kind of set themselves behind with that one play, and now with their lanes kind of where they are, they're kind of passengers until the next opportunity arises.
Oof, Kaiwing looking for the wraparound hook, not quite able to find it. Look, Brent, I'm not too worried about K-Stars if they want to kind of just play safe and go into defensive mode. My fear is if Leviathan decides to push the pressure. And we see Bookie onto this dragon, able to sneak in for now. But the moment Enga starts kind of shifting down to this bot side, you can see Morteus and Kaiwing have to be very, very careful. If there is a dive coming through, they will get melted. And Enga is managing to force Quats out of lane. And even worse for Quats is that he steps out of lane, gets traded on. Enga, in the laning phase, was struggling to really get meaningful damage into Quats, but anytime Quats is walking to bushes, leaving the lane, not having vision control, he's losing that out, and that gives Enga back the advantage that he was losing in lane and keeps things stable. And we're talking about the scaling. Rise gets kind of scary. He needs to kind of hit that 2-item power spike. This is a weak phase of Rise right now in terms of damage. He can push lane, but he shouldn't be able to win out those trades.
Yeah, shouldn't is the operative word. He's kind of having the better of it so far. Not completely abysmal is VKS's chances, but you've seen just a lot of small mistakes coming through. Like you said, Quat stepping out of the lane, not really getting anything for his time venturing, looking for vision or trying to support a teammate. And then, that gives Enga the chance to push in. You saw just that step forward, Morteus taking all of that damage, forced to use the barrier. And that set, VKS behind in the bot lane. Kaiwing going to back, got hit by the Gleaming Quill, had, interrupts his back. And so now they're, in lots of little things, and it's going to add up eventually.
Yeah, Kaiwing really risking a lot to just clear that one control ward. And yeah, he's going to take a chunk of damage. Has to burn the flash burn defensively. He's not even running Hex Flash either. So for the Nautilus, losing that flash is kind of important because now you don't have backline access. Not to mention Morteus was actually losing the 1v1 against CEO. Or maybe I have to take back what I said. When Morteus got caught out by CEO and top up earlier, I was like, I'm not too worried. They can kind of play defensive. They'll be fine. But taking this much harassment, being forced back, that CS lead is actually getting significant. Yes, there's a wave pushing in, but you're still a full wave behind, even if you catch that wave perfectly. And with Dragon, having already been taken by Lev uncontested, coming back up in 3 minutes time, I'm just kind of looking at the breakpoints, and I fear that VKS might not be able to contest for second Drake either.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? If you're behind, if you're even early, Yunara, with the help of like a Jarvan and that, all of that control they have between their support and their mid laner, they have all this CC. Yunara can ball a little bit at just like an item at that second dragon. But when you're behind, this pick really, really struggles to like get the ball rolling. You don't have a crazy amount of survivability, like ways to keep yourself safe. You don't have an enchanter on your team to keep you safe for you. And so as they step towards these next, objective fights, being that little bit behind means that Morteus really can't just like pump out the damage before everyone else can get on top of him. It's going to be really, really difficult to play out. Like you said, down about 10 CS in the mid lane there, or sorry, in the bot lane rather. And I think CO just has a better time of the early game, not just because Xayah is that little bit stronger than Yunara is, in my opinion, in those like mid game scraps, but also just is genuinely safer. All of the just movement in Xayah's kit, being able to get that R down, pull all the feathers back, have a self peel is gonna add up. We're gonna get a scrap here as Enga's coming in, does not get the root down. The flag drag goes in, but Kaiwing, he's the one caught out. He's receiving the punishment. He's gonna fall to Enga, and there's nothing else to find afterwards. Just VKS once again too far forward across the map, and they're gonna take another death with only a minute to this drag. We're gonna see a lot of lane pressure here. You can see this is giving Toplop the chance to get a massive amount of vision down. Look at that vision control in that bottom jungle. Leviathan has that place lit up, and they're going to be ready for this dragon in a minute.
Yeah, and while all this is happening, Bren, the gold lead has ballooned double now to 1.7 thousand gold. Bull canceling his back twice in a row. And I almost feel like both feels he has to do this because Grubs were taken by Leviathan as well. If Devis gets this push, he's going to get 1, maybe 2 plates to boot. So Herald was already, Grubs were already taken. You can see Kaiwing very, very deep in, and maybe he thought he had to back up the Samus. He's got the numbers advantage. But Enga gets here, and my big question is, where's Quats? Right, we've seen one of these pseudo globals come in, the other didn't. And Quats' Weaver's Wall comes out really late. After it's way too late for Kaiwing, and he's pretty much on the Samus, and they pretty much did to rights at that point. That's when it comes out. VKS thought they have a numbers advantage, but they're actually playing at a numbers disadvantage for the entire skirmish.
Yeah, and this is the second death for VKS, and it's the second time that's happened where we're expecting, hey, we've got the numbers advantage here. We can posture forward. We've got the pressure, and it's Enga who beats Quats to the punch. Just not on the same page. It's gonna cost them once again. And I honestly, I want to shout back to what you said. Leviathan got grubs as well. That's normally the trade, right? If one team gets first dragon, the other team says, okay, well, at least we get the consolation prize. The grubs aren't that good in 2026, but at least we get something out of it. VKS has found nothing on the map so far. No kills, no objectives. They don't have a dragon to their name. They maybe took a scuttle. They took one of the first scuttles, I think. And so they've got that going for them. They're down nearly 2K at this point. They're going to clear out this vision, get set up for this dragon, but Leviathan's already started up, and look how dark the map is. And I don't know, Leviathan just kind of set up to punish them if VKS steps a foot wrong. So what are they to do but to continue to play safe and just seed more and more objectives? And at a certain point, it's going to be too much. You have to wonder, does VKS make a move before we get to that point?
And the scaling of that rise is, I feel like, the ticking time bomb for them, right? The Xayah is already scaling, already stronger, but the Sam is looking for the steal.
We get the dredge line in, but it is Enga who picks up the dragon. They are going to find one.
No
Maybe
shot,
they can't get it. The Vi, the blast shield, it is too strong, and both teams will limp away. Leviathan happier with their haul, having picked up the flash on both carries there, as well as a dragon to boot. They thought they had Bookie, but the healing from the Sundered Sky, the blast shield, the Vi passive is too strong. And Leviathan getting away with the Weaver's Walk now. Coming out the top side, does get the knockback. They are going to pick up their first kill of the match. A good gank from Quats in the top side. Going to kind of be, again, the consolation prize for losing out at that dragon.
Quats going coast to coast to try and find some way to salvage that early game. But yeah, we need a replay on that because that was incredibly clutch. That Weaver's Wall could have swung either way, but Lev are still in the lead right now. And Bren, after that fight, the lane assignments, how quickly they responded. Yes, Quats covered all the way into top lane, but that meant that Leviathan couldn't push any of the lanes, couldn't really get any advantage in mid and bot. And CEO actually managed to shove another wave into that turret, shoving Morteus further and further behind.
Yeah, you look at the farm numbers, you can see the CEO is 124 farm to Morteus is 106. Obviously, Morteus going to collect this wave right now, kind of try and even out that discrepancy. But I don't know. That lead is important because right now it's an item break point. And I think, you know, Morteus is going to find the time to back and get that first item before we get our next like serious skirmish. But CEO already has the Essence Reaver, which is such a strong item on the Xayah, with the changes to make it a Sheen item once again this season.
Okay, Morteus, as you said, hitting that sort of item break point, gets the Kraken Slayer. That's huge for Yunara. That's when you can really start to run people down and do damage in team fights. And for VKS, ideally at this point, Morteus is struggling in the 1v1 or 2v2. It's not going to get better. Often the Sheen items laning is much stronger because you're doing short trades, not extended fights. So VKS might be looking to actually get a team fight rolling in their favor. Once the service completes for Quats, that's probably their best bet. A 3-man dive up top.
Give a team fight. They have the dive coming in. The CC is good. They do find it, but they're taking damage. The tower starting to ramp up, so they're going to trade back one. That's Quats, but they're continuing to go forward. That's going to be two. Who will be the next to fall? Disam is trying to get out. It won't matter. Quats will fall. Can he get away? The red buff, a triple kill for Enga, who's just tearing apart this top side. Picked up that first kill under the tower, finds Boal after he goes back in. Boal tried to find space for Tisamis, can't do it. And now they both fall, and the gold lead, honestly, still the same as it was. About 1.7K.
Well, it's double. It's 3.5 now.
Oh, I can't read. I can't read. The font is very small on my tiny monitor, RMC. That makes me blind.
In the top side, we're going to see a not so tiny dive come through. Vicky has spent a lot of resources, and I like the idea to double down on a lane that was winning. Bull gets out alive, but Bookie and Enga are just able to collapse so much faster, and Enga's use of Ghost this game has been phenomenal. We're used to seeing everybody run Flash, but I'd argue that for Enga, the Ghost has been far more effective because it's letting him run people down in these long lanes, and Toplop, he's willing to just hard commit onto Disam. It's like, even if Enga didn't show up, I think Toplop would just look for the dive anyways, try and secure the solo kill. Because why not? He had the barrier ready to go with the Unsealed Spellbook. You know, he was in a strong position. Disam was dead to rights. And while all that was happening too, Lev just continued to punish in the mid lane, right? COs continue to push in, get some threat onto that turret. And because the play from VKS felt topside, they have no more pressure there. Herald spawns, it's going to be Lev with the advantage.
Yeah, continuing to balloon that gold lead, which I can now read. I just got to lean in a little bit. And it for my money, this is I keep saying that, but I love that term. For my money, if I had to put my money on it, I think that Ghost Flash is an underrated combo in literally any lane right now, because we talked about this a couple times on the podcast. We were surprised more people weren't running combat summoners.
Yeah.
When you have, as a mid laner, you have the 3-second back timer permanently. You have that constant home guard. So why are we running teleport? We can get out onto the lane, especially as Rise, who has his own like little baked in teleport. Why are we running this utility summoner to get across the map when we could just me go fast, me run down enemy team, me get triple kill?
Yeah, and maybe that's making a difference in the top side as well, because Devis is running the Ignite and has been able to put pressure, right? And we've seen Bull have to call in reinforcements to be able to get any sort of real kill threat onto Devis so far. Now, this top lane I do feel is mostly a wash. It's about what happens elsewhere. Top lop, looking for the engage.
Here comes the quickness. Does find 2 charms. Ooh. The Weaver's Wall is going to come over the top. Kotz is finally here. Does separate off the fight very nicely. And that means Enga is all alone. A great shutdown play for VKS. Enga got a little confident there, and because of that, his team was caught on the other side of the wall. Just let me in. Could not get away.
Yeah, Enga looking for that realm warp into the backline, but had no buddies with him, and VKS was like, oh, sweet, delivery. That's epic. But by the way, false correlation. Ghost not up, Enga dies? Just
doesn't have Ghost, and it means he can't play the game. Everybody knows this.
Okay, but realistically though, and more actual correlation, Devis able to find that first break on that top side with the pressure that happened mid. So Leviathan, despite messing up the fight a little bit and giving that dragon over, they will still be able to maintain gold lead, answering top side a little bit. And Bren, Leviathan's early game has always been great. We've never doubted that. They've got a lot of their leads, but this mid game and mistakes like this is where it feels like they struggle to close out. The counter engage from top lap I think was on point, but when Kaiwing got away, that's kind of where it got risky. And Enga, that Weaver's Wall from Quad's doing a lot of work to separate him and put him in a really bad spot. He was just trying to run out. There's a team couldn't back him up. So not really Enga's fault. More, I think Quad's finally being able to get a good play, maybe settling down a little bit, because reminder, this is Quad's first game ever in tier 1.
Yeah. We definitely have to give the guy like that little bit of levity. It's gonna be tough just playing on the big stage and the big lights. It's a big deal, for your career. Those first impressions are important, right? We've seen lots of guys that we know are top of the line players, far too good for CD, way too good to be playing tier 2, and yet can never quite cut the mustard in tier 1. So that's going to be important. Going to use the wall, try and stop the Herald, but it will not work. The Herald still gets the charge. The wall a little too close.
That's got to be
That means they're going to get a lot of damage, both in the mid lane and on the bot lane. They're going to find another tower here in this bot side. Enga picking up all of the gold for this one. And now, again, it is still Leviathan with the map pressure. Like I said, we know the early game is good, but we're getting into that mid to mid late, here at 20 minutes. The Baron spawns fairly soon. And like you said, on that previous fight, we saw a good counter engage. We saw some good plays. Enga kind of caught out, committed to the realm warp. It didn't work. Is that a sign of what's to come next? Or is it one little mistake and Leviathan's going to recover? The gold graph seems to suggest it's the latter.
Yeah, and that's because Cater's making mistakes, right? Like that was a huge mistake on the mid lane. I've seen Quat stop Herald charges in CD plenty of times with Talia. So mispositioning it in such a way that it didn't actually stop the charge is a huge problem. And for VKS, the issue isn't losing the gold to Leviathan from these turrets. Like, that is a problem. But the bigger problem is actually them losing map pressure. Now, with all the outer turrets down, they're going to struggle to actually approach these objectives. And we look at the vision coming through from VKS Bren. Top side, nothing. They have no control over that. Baron just spawned as well. Bot side, they still have a couple of wards, or actually just got cleared up by top lop. So yeah, they're just now blind approaching any objective. And that's really scary when you're behind as VKS.
Yeah, I mean, look at the vision scores throughout this match. Top lop has just massacred any ward he's come across to the tune of 114 vision score in 20 minutes. He is rocking 5 vision per minute, RMC. That is ridiculous numbers. I tell people, like, when you're learning the game as a support, like, shoot for like 2 vision a minute, because anything past that does kind of become dependent on the enemy team placing wards so that you can clear them out. But this guy has 5 vision per minute, and it's just completely controlling the vision on the map. And that means, like you said, it's going to be dark. It's going to make these objective setups that much harder. They don't know where Lev is, what Lev is going for. And I wonder, like, what VCAS is going to do to get around this, because they need to get out onto these objectives eventually. They cannot continue to seed this map pressure. They have to find some sort of point to play for. And as if to emphasize their point, we are showing the blue side vision here along the map. They know where Desamus is, and Desamus does not know where they are.
Yeah, so 1 minute before Dragon spawns, and Bren, we talked about Baron just having come up. It's too early. Xayah, not necessarily the best AD carry to be able to take that. Doesn't have the Kraken Slayer, doesn't have Blade of the Rune King to be able to shred through. So really, Dragon will be the focus for Leviathan, and for VKS, they're trying to clear it out right now. Desamus in that area, unfortunately didn't catch the one, which was pretty deep on their side of the jungle, but did clear out the river area. So VKS, they're slowly trying to make their way back in. I think Bull being on the bot side helps a lot, because they have a tank who can at least bodyguard and escort either Desamus or Kaiwing to clear wards. CEO is up in a lane, but that's a Xayah. He's very, very safe. There's no good engage, and Bull, you've got to be careful approaching this one.
Bull just recognizes, okay, there's no point in trying waste any resources here. There's not much to find. Like I said, no good engage into Xayah, especially with that ultimate up. No way.
Engage.
Force, but it might be Leviathan who are forcing. Going forward is Bookie, but too far forward. Gets stretched out, gets some damage down, but it's he who will fall first. The health bar is a little low for VKS. Leviathan still have most of their damage up. Only their engager is down, and because of that, it's VKS actually who are backing away here.
Yeah, because VKS has less health as a team right now. They just have more bodies. And Kaiwing, if that hook hits, I think Kaiwing would be the one to suffer from that. Bull using his teleport to get back into the fray. Full health. The tank is available. Now he can frontline. It's buying more time for VKS as a whole. And Leviathan, are they just trying to stall until Bookie gets back? They don't want to start up this dragon without the smite, but every second they're taking is more time for VKS to reset.
Yeah, VKS resetting, getting their guys back out on the map. Like you said, that does mean Bookies are back up.
Okay.
Both teams kind of just walking around each other there, and Leviathan's going to seed the dragon, but take the map pressure instead. But I don't know that they got that much out of it. They got some damage, maybe one of the plates out of that mid lane turret, but not much beyond that.
No, I think Kata are very happy with what happened there. They get the dragon for pretty much for free. And that's the difference between supports. Toplop went in, he went in deep along with Bookie. And Kaiwing was actually able to stall the backline and most importantly survived. And the threat of the engage that Kaiwing had, I think, was the big difference maker. Bookie going down, meaning no smite, also meant that Lev just never had a shot. So Lev, there's the mid-game mistakes that we've come to worry a little bit about for them. Like, yes, they're still in the gold lead. No, they haven't thrown the game. But this is what makes them one of the slowest teams in the league to win out their games. I believe coming into the week, they were something like 37 minutes on their game wins. So yeah, they take some time to close out. And for Cade, this is precious time for them. Not only because it gives them a chance to win this game, but I feel like any time they're given to get Quats to gel with the team is huge. Because the switch from Miru to Quats happened midweek. They had very little scrim time together. And so yeah, this is more than just stage time for Quats. This is stage time for the whole team to be able to start connecting and look for these 5-man plays.
Yeah, the gold lead has been stable. Like you said, though, when it's stable and it's not going up, that does stretch out that game. Leviathan, one of the longer game times, that 2 dragons effectively extends one of those game-ending objectives by 10 more minutes that VKS can stave off that that Elder Drake that will come in at the end of the day and start to cause problems. And like I said, yes, Leviathan do scale quite well. They have lots of good options with both their mid lane and their bot lane carries being very good in the late game. But Morteus has the single best late game character, I think on the patch really in that Yunara. And so they're not gonna be too concerned about like pushing to the late game. It's not a complete throw. Are both teams just staring at? They both have vision on the other and just staring at each other right now.
Yeah, the joke is, I'm not sure that Lev knew there was a ward there. And I think they were just waiting for Top Block to actually get there to pop his sweepers. If not, they wouldn't have known that they're just kind of sitting there. Kaiwing, ooh, good dodge from Top Block. Makes Kaiwing kind of run into the wall. But vision is dark. Lev is starting this one up. VKS need to move now. Morteus finally clearing that wave, but Baron's already at half health.
Baron is low.
Ooh,
VKS finally moving in.
off.
Here's going to come the Weaver's Wall over the back. Kot's going to force them out of the Baron pit. They are going to find Kaiwing first, but the support is not the one you want. A good equalizer over the top finds the damage. 2 kills for Enga. He's moving forward, but they have good CC, but it's not enough. The health bars fall. Enga with the triple kill. Enga with the quadra kill. And this guy is having a day for himself. They're going to go right back to the Baron.
Enga really preying on the fact that Quats is new to this. Now, Desam is the last man standing for VKS. Gonna look for the steal, but Devis denying him, saying, not at my cookout. CEO and Enga right now. Enga tanking it up, but for all the health that Enga has, he doesn't have the resistances. They need attack.
They can't take the Baron. This is a big win for VKS. Not in the sense that they won the fight, but at least they don't lose the Baron. And that's a lot of time wasted.
Yeah, we get a replay of that fight. Quats with the Weaver's Wall coming in, but this was baited by Leviathan. Really patient play for them, something that they have struggled with. And even though they're down in health, because they bait out a lot of that initial burst damage, and this time because Bookie is able to take out Morteus, the sustained damage is lacking on VKS's side. And we talked about the fact that Xayah, Rise, both these champions skill incredibly well. If you don't have threat to force them out, if you don't have the Yunara, you don't have a way to match in extended fights.
Yeah, and when they just traded their supports there, it looked, kind of fine for VKS. But I think a lot of that is you have to look at the great equalizer that came over across the back line there. I think Devos going to be very happy with that play, all things said and done. But they don't get the Baron, which is honestly very important if you're VKS, because I think that's a game-losing play if Leviathan get that Baron and start to crack open your base even further, because Leviathan still have not taken a tower RMC. We are 27 minutes into the game, and not a single outer turret has fallen. That's really, really tough. If you have that Baron, you have no chance to push these waves. So VKS still in the game, but that just means everyone is grouping back up. The Weaver's Wall coming through. Are we going to find an engage? No, nothing to be found. Not going to overcommit. But that does mean one of their big tools is actually going to be down at least for a little bit. So about a 40-second cooldown at this point.
And the Weaver's Wall has been doing so much to be able to section off Lev, not just in fights, but even from objectives, like we saw in the last fight, pushing them off Baron. So losing that early is an issue. And frankly, Bren, I'm not sold by them going for CEO like that. CEO has flash, had ultimate available. Maybe they were looking to burn the ultimate, but the angle was bad, and Cade were just not ready to capitalize on it. Bookie now on the flank. Do VKS know? I don't think they do, but with Dragon up, both teams are a little bit split. Lev finally getting their third Drake of the game, Brett. It's been a while. They got the first 2, and then they had to seed number 3 and number 4.
Yeah, and I think, VKS is pretty happy with the 2 Drakes they got. Obviously, the Ocean is great for sustain, but those 2 Chemtech Drakes adding that little bit of tenacity, making it's just a little harder for those charms and the roots to stick from Zyrakan, giving them that extra heal and shield power. And if they can pick up that soul, I think VKS actually has a pretty good team that would like to make use of it, especially that Cassante, I think, does quite a bit with that Chemtech soul. But VKS having to seed the map pressure, made a play, used their turn to try and find the enemy AD carry, didn't quite get it. We're seeing the comparison of Enga to Quats, and honestly, you know what? I'm going to say Quats' damage is higher than I thought it was going to be. Like, he's in the same ballpark as Enga right now, and Enga's kind of popping off, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about Quats is while his laning is a little bit bland and uninspiring to say the least, he has traditionally been a late game carry for Pain Gaming Academy and for VKS Academy as well. Now, Talia is not necessarily a late game champion, but you can always go fishing for picks, and that's really what I'm looking for from Quats. Now, the flip side of the coin as well is that, yes, Quats' damage is high, but I'm a little bit concerned if whether that's coming at the expense of Morteus. And because Morteus is the primary focus from Leviathan, it's allowed Quats to kind of be able to chuck those rocks for free without too much pressure. Unfortunately, we don't know what Morteus' damage is, but I am looking at him to carry these fights because Quats can do all the damage he wants. It's not enough solo.
Yeah, and you see the itemization coming out for Morteus. This has been kind of the adaptation as tanks have become less and less common. You're picking up the Fiend Hunter Bolt on 3, not going for that armor pendant, and immediately going to pop the Seeker's Arm Guard as a defensive item as well. You know, Yunara, one of the champions that makes very, very good use of that, of the stasis, not just the stasis, but just the item in general. Zanya is very, very good. But yeah, not having to do the armor pen, getting just the 2 crit items with the Fiend Hunter Bolts for the true damage, gonna be a lot of damage to pump out when that ultimate comes out. But it's, can Morteus stay alive to right click? That's my problem with Yunara. I am not in the same realm as Morteus, but when I play Yunara, I'm like, wow, this champion does so much damage. Too bad I'm dead 98% of every fight.
Yeah, and
that's kind of been the issue, I think, for VKS.
Yeah, and you get to build the Seeker's Arm Guard specifically because right now the big threat is Bookie. That ultimate, the Cease and Desist just charging in, is the problem for Morteus. So if he goes stasis, he doesn't take the damage. We've seen what happens when Bookie overextends and is punished. And I think that's what they're looking for right now, is for Morteus to just be bait, get Bookie out. Once you've got the numbers advantage, once Morteus doesn't have threat on him, he is going to be able to carry that fight like a late game carry, like we've seen so many times from the likes of a Yunara.
We see now the total damage coming out, and yeah, you can see it is really Leviathan in the driver's seat. All 3 of their lane carries picking up the top of the damage across the board. Then Quats is at least keeping it close, and then Morteus, so kind of struggling to, you know, again, we highlighted it. That's the issue for VKS, is keeping Morteus up in these fights. If they can keep him alive, they usually are going to win the extended trade, but all of Leviathan's focus has been on taking out that 80 carry. Now VKS have earned themselves a little bit of map pressure. They finally broke their first tower 31 minutes into the game. They picked up that bot lane turret, but the attention is once again being paid back up to the Baron.
Yeah, and I think KD are in a fantastic spot, honestly, because 3K gold lead has not grown whatsoever. Now, they do get a ward into the pit. They know this is being done, but look at where Morteus is. He's just leaving base. Desamis is only now approaching Quats, trying to stall alone in the Baron pit. Can't quite find it, but has he bought time?
He's got the stasis down, but Devast on the backside gonna hit a huge equalizer. That forces VKS to flee, and now everyone's scattered away, and Morteus is falling low once again, has to flash over the wall, will barely escape. Nobody dies for VKS, but Leviathan finds as much as they like with that Baron. Kaiwing just playing the Benny Hill theme as he's running around the mid lane, wasting Enga's time. Enga does use the Realm Warp. Not a cooldown. He'll miss all too much. They pick up their kill. They pick up their Baron power play to boot and are going to continue to put on the pressure and now finally try and grow this gold lead. You can see here what Quats tries to do. He goes in, tries to separate people out, buy some time, goes stasis. But here is the great play from Devos. Forces Desamis and Morteus out, gets a great equalizer down. Is the amount of damage that Rumble is pumping out onto those guys means they can't play the game.
We didn't need to see this again.
This is just goofy, man.
Yeah, we didn't need to see this again. And then the Baron up minions able to kind of follow up with that last auto attack. Yeah, Lev just pushing in from all angles right now with that Baron buff. They were already in the lead. This might be what they need to kind of tip things over the edge and actually close out the game. Again, it's been 34 minutes, Brent. It's taken a while. Lev weren't able to significantly grow their mid game, but now they're in the late game. They're feeling comfortable. And for all that we just saw, and yeah, Devis popped off immensely. His damage numbers are the highest in this game for a reason. I do feel like, again, it's on Kate Stars. They had unfortunate back timing. I think they didn't expect Lev to be able to burn down Baron quite that quickly. So they all had to just go running in after. They weren't in position to stop them whatsoever. They weren't even positioned to capitalize. And now they're kind of reaping what they sowed by not contesting that Baron a little bit harder. They're going to lose at least one inhibitor turret, maybe even two. And with this inhibitor going down as well, even if Baron wears out, Lev are still in a great position to go for a 4-1 split push with supers in the bot side. Just, kind of threatening the base and looking to crack that even more.
Yeah, once the supers are going, let them do their job. They're going to push that lane for you. You get to go anywhere else on the map that you like. And that's going to include setting up for these neutral objectives. One more dragon will be soul, and it's Leviathan making the first move. Devos immediately deletes Kaiwing. Morteus having to drop the Seeker's Arm Guard is still alive, starting to pump out that damage. Enga is going to pick up a kill. They're fighting backwards, but Morteus still trying to get away, cannot do it, and it will be Lev surging forward. 2 kills there for CEO. I don't think they're going to bother with this last dragon. If they can find Desamus, that's going to be the game. Devust is on top of him, burning him down, trying to waste time as Desamus. It won't matter. That's the ace. And I think they're going to have the damage to end.
Yep, they have supers in the base coming from that bot side as well. They're just going to race right past the mid lane. Their eyes are set on the Nexus and Leviathan. What about the mid game? But when they have an opening to end the game, they know how to take it. And Leviathan take game 1 of the best of 5, the first elimination of the CBLOL Cup playoffs.
Yep, and it's almost exactly what we talked about with Leviathan, which is like, they're not a team that completely just chokes away their lead. They're not just gonna super throw, but they make some mistakes. Luckily for them, VKS was not the team to capitalize on at this time. Their mistakes were not so grievous that they just lost the game over them, and they had plenty of map to play out. And honestly, I think they played it out pretty dang well. All things considered, they recovered from some of their mistakes, and once they found that foothold late into the game, they continued to, like you said, turn up the pressure and use that to just drive VKS back, and that's how they ultimately took it.
And that's one thing we said about Leviathan as a group, as a team, as they've been playing throughout the split. Is it's been getting better and better. And, you know, Devis, Bookie, Enga, they're all coming up in from tier 2, from LRN, from LRS. And the potential was always there, and we're starting to see it realized. K-Stars, on the other hand, Bren, these are our reigning champions. And sure, yeah, Miryu's out. Yes, they had to swap Kaiwing in, but they should be better than this. And frankly, I feel like a lot of the problems we saw in that first game, I'm not even putting that on Quads. Like, sure, Quads was his laning great? No. Did he make some mistakes? Yes, he did. But yet he was consistent enough to have that pressure in the mid game, despite him falling behind. Their shot calling, I think, was much more the problem for them. And to me, I'm looking at Kaiwing. I'm looking at Desamus for those two things. Desamus, a vocal voice on the team as a jungler. Kaiwing, you know, a veteran of the League of Legends scene, has been, you know, a top 8 support at international events multiple times. But that Baron call, that's a call that they need to recognize. And if you've seen the behind the scenes videos from VKS, you know that, yeah, there is issues with who shot calling and them actually following those calls. And if that continues, Bren, they could lose 3 straight games at the rate they're going. They need to fix things up and fast.
They need to fix things up and fast. Luckily, they have a short break where they're going to get to talk to their coach CL, who's, I'm sure, not particularly pleased.
Yep.
But that means we also have a short break to take. We are going to get right to that when we come back. Game 2 of the series. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you shortly. Hello, everybody. Did you miss us? Because we weren't gone too long, and I hope the break was long enough for VKS to get their act together. RMC, though, had enough time to go and get into something a little more festive. RMC, what you got going on over there?
Brent, it's Carnival, right? So I didn't get the memo this morning, so I've become a red side minion for game 2 and for the rest of this series to make this work. And speaking of red side, Brent, side select, of course, now being uncoupled from first pick. It will be VKS who gets to opt whether they want first pick or not. And we've been seeing a trend, at least in the best of 3 so far here in the CBLOL Cup, where in game 2, the team that gets to pick first pick often picks second pick. But the team that gets to pick side select often picks red side. So if that holds out, we'll see if VKS... Okay, so we do actually get word. No, unfortunately, VKS has opted for first pick, and Lev will be blue side. So kind of similar to what we saw in game 1 once again. It is full Fearless, so we won't be seeing the Xayah again. And unfortunately, Devis will not be cooking on Rumble for game 2.
No cooking on Rumble, and with the full Fearless, we get a new draft strategy here, perhaps, for VKS. And with them going for first pick, they're still going to have at least one super powerful pick to play around, even after the Fearless, even after the bans. And so, RMC, where are you looking? Like, where does VKS need to focus their draft strategy? Because it felt like they kind of all in on this front to back. We're going to have one carry who's going to just, mow down through the fights. And that didn't work. They could not keep Mortea safe. So what do they need to do, kind of looking forward?
Well, I think Orianna could be a very high priority champion. It's a champion that Quats is very, very familiar with. And K-Stars as an organization has had a history in the last couple of years of using Nocturne Orianna as a very efficient combo. So Desama should also be very used to running Nocturne with an Ori in his back pocket. Failing that, Brent, I'd like to see Bull being put on a carry. Because last game he was put on Cassante, and he did fine into Rumble. He did his job, and he was that front line that was supposed to give Mortea space. There's nothing you can do about a Vi kind of dashing past you. It's point and click. But we've also seen Bull really take over games on Mbessa. So I'd love to see Bull be given that sort of agency to be that secondary, heck, maybe even primary carry when he's on a champion like Mbessa that can just take over a game.
Yeah, I kind of want to see it too. I want to see split 3 Bull come back because, like we said, Bull hasn't been bad this split. He's been
great,
mostly fine. But he's not been the guy. Because, 2025 split 3, that was the guy. We were like, whoa. I think we literally, when we did our podcast episode, we were mad that we didn't have more space in S tier because Bull should just be by himself at the top of S tier. That was literally our reasoning. And as if to, hey, RMC knows, if you guys don't think RMC knows ball, this guy knows ball, as it will be a first pick Orianna for VKS. But as a counter pick, Leviathan's going to take away the Nocturne.
That's somebody else who knows well. Kaiba and New Cosmo over there, recognizing that, okay, they've got the Orianna. We don't want to give them the Nocturne combo. It's just way, way, way too dangerous. There's just too many targets they can potentially take out. And the Aurora insta-pick as well is an interesting one because Enga was someone who played it this split for them. But we've seen Aurora go to the top lane as well. It is a flex pick, and more importantly, it can be a very strong 1v1 pick to come through. And we're talking about Bull being a carry. Well, trying to be a carry in the face of an Aurora in lane gets really tough. VKS with the pivot, though, if you can't get Octonori, we'll just go for the sort of team fight wombo combo ball delivery system, which was Orianna's original bread and butter.
Yeah, gonna have still a good ball delivery system and a great way to combo, like you said, the Cyclone into the Shockwave is a very potent combo indeed, or the Shockwave into the Cyclone. You have options on who presses R first, and it will be a boring pick, but a fairly safe pick, I feel, for Morteus here in the court.
Yeah, Corki right now, really strong 2v2 trading, very strong skilling as well. His big weakness is range, and even then he's got the missile smoke from far. So VKS right now playing a fairly short-ranged composition. I'm curious if we see something like a Jinx to come out, or heck, we've seen even Lucian kind of be used. I'm not a fan of Lucian into Corki, but given that we don't see a tank from the side of VKS, being able to soften them up with the culling, and then following up with a Nocturne with a Scion as well, could be a viable strategy for Leviathan. There's a lot of burst potential for them as well with the Orianna and Nocturne already.
They have the Orianna, they have the Nocturne, like you said. They have the ability, or sorry, the Aurora and the Nocturne has the ability for Leviathan to go forward and do some big burst damage. And they have their big beefy frontliner there in the Scion that they're just going to put Devast on and say, hey, I think Devast and Bull have both had this duty at some point throughout the regular season of like, hey, you're just a big body, go up there, play Scion. It is the most, I don't know, it's such a classic way to play top lane. Like, that's what I think, like, Scion is like the top laner I think of that like represents how I feel about top lane. Is like, nope, you just go up there and you kind of don't care about what happens on the rest of the map because you have 10,000 HP. And good bans, I think, coming through here for Leviathan, because they get rid of the Gwen, which is one of the best picks into that Scion, and they get rid of the Nami, which has been the traditional pairing for the Corki.
Yeah, it does leave up things like the Ambessa, which not so great as Scion necessarily, but just a big carry pick for Bull, potentially, or maybe even something like a Jax that can afford to scale up into the likes of a Scion. The Ezreal being taken away from CEO, it really does feel like Cade is trying to force him onto something a little bit more risky. That you kind of have to go toe to toe. You don't get that safety to play away from the Nocturne, from the Wukong Ori combo. So I've got Nocturne Ori in my head. You know the Knockwave combo that the LCS
coined?
Yeah,
Knockwave.
If we're calling it Knockwave, there's Orianna, Wukong, what is that? Wave Kong?
Wave Kong. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
We'll workshop it out.
And it is the Kaisa that comes through for Leviathan. VKS banned it out last game. CO more than competent on this pick. Going to be very fine. Into a relatively short range competition, Kaisa's going to suffer a little less for her attack range. Has the ability to reposition, give herself the shield, keep herself safe. Like you said, talk about that burst potential. Good follow up there for for Enga and Bookie to kind of just delete an enemy champion before they can come through. And the answer for VKS is a Boal. It's a Boal Aatrox.
Yeah, the idea for the Aatrox, I guess, is that you can kind of go toe-to-toe with Scion, and you're going to have just a lot of teamfight damage from VKS. If they can get a Shockwave off onto multiple members, they set up beautifully for a Gatling gun, for Aatrox to, get all that AoE down with the Cyclone. It's really scary, so it feels like the pressure's on Leviathan to not group up, but they have the comp to do it. Aurora doesn't want to group up the team. Kaisa doesn't really want to group up the team. Like, she wants to dive, and oftentimes that will create a death ball where all of the Leviathan is kind of nearby because they're diving together. So that becomes kind of risky. And I like BKS's answer into this, because if it's only Enga left alive with Aurora at the end of the day, you can deal with that. She is scary, but she is her threat level isn't really that high. You've got that many members alive that can kind of corral her in, that can punish her for stepping up. So I'm liking the VKS composition. It's pretty straightforward. But it does rely on Leviathan, not grouping up that much. And while their comp wants to group up, we have seen individually CEO, Enga, Devis, Bookie. They all know how to position very, very well. So as long as they don't screw up, Leviathan can play this out despite the good draft from VKS.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, of what seems to be a very potent lane there with the Kaisa and the Leona being able to just Zenith Blade in. It's going to be a rush for level 2. Whichever of these supports hits level 2 first is going to be able to kind of immediately cause grief and force people off of their wave. So there's going to be a little bit of attrition here in the early game to see which team can kind of get control of that, because we saw in the first game that I think the early game matters a lot for both these teams.
Yeah, and now if you're looking at the bot lane, Baron, I'm looking at the mid lane between Enga and Quats, because Aurora, very lane dominant champion, one that can actually punish Orianna very well. Orianna, a very safe mid laner. There's not a lot of really tough matchups for her. Aurora's probably one of the tougher ones. And while I have seen Quats play in CD a lot, and I know he's really, really stable in lane, he's uninspiring, but that also means that he doesn't often lose his lane that hard. Again, first outing into tier 1, and game 1, he did make a couple of mistakes. And if there is a mid laner who's going to punish for that, Enga is definitely looking to be able to do that. Cute couple coming through. One complaint I do have about the Carnival is because everybody's wearing like Carnival stuff. I can't tell who people are supporting anymore. We can't see, are these VKS fans or are these Lev fans, or do we have the random T1 fans? Because there's a lot of Brazilian T1 fans, and they usually show at least one every week.
Just incredibly random, just Red fan. Just, I'm here for the love of the game. They're not even playing this week. Don't care.
The Furia fan should be out watching this one, because winner of this will be playing Furia. Is it tomorrow? Let me check the schedule here. Yep. Yeah, it'll be
we
tomorrow.
Should probably know the schedule a little bit better, but I'll be honest, I did all my prep this week being like, all right, yeah, okay, VKS versus Leviathan. We were even talking like, okay, like what stats and graphics do we want to run? And we were talking about like, oh, the mid lane's gonna be real big between Mira and Enga, and then the mid lane changed, and so me and you were both like, oh, I gotta pull up on the notes on Quats. So that's for those of you guys who don't know, normally RMC, like the graphics that he has ready to go, it's got all these awesome stats. Armsy does a lot of work to like really get that like he's on top of that stuff. It's awesome. But we were both like, I don't know what we do. The graphic, we have no graphic. Miryu got benched. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the graphics in game 1. We got canceled.
We had to go get new ones.
Graphics. That was pretty short notice, and it does happen from time to time. The other thing too is that, you know what, like Furia, nobody's expecting Furia and Cade to be like in the lower bracket right from the get-go. Furia in the second round of lower bracket is shocking. Cade being in the first round was even more so. So right now it feels like we're taking it step by step, and for these teams as well, that's what they need to do. Yes, Leviathan won game 1 in commanding fashion, but game's not over. We've seen teams do reverse sweeps. That has happened in CBLOL before. I think the first one's what, 2021, 2022, and since then we've had a couple happen. So Cade, we've seen them bounce back before. We'll see if they're able to do it. Once again, Bookie with the
this is the Bookie special, man.
Yeah. To be fair, Desamas knows. Desamas is also invading on the other side, so Kaiwing's just trying to slow him down as much as possible.
I say Kaiwing maybe looking to steal the Gromp. Yeah, he's trying to steal it if he can, but knows that it's probably not a smart engage. Figures top lop is sitting right there. I love him. I might do it. I won't, but I could.
He just doesn't want Bookie to be comfortable, you know, like be uncomfortable, slow down, take a risk. Bookie now back in the jungle, actually running straight up to his wolves where Desamas is. That meeting would be interesting. Desamas able to get out to safety, and we're not going to get to see that. Brent, I was excited because we saw Quats and Enga trading pretty heavily, so if there was a fight in the jungle, it might have led to first blood with how low these health bars are.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised if they did have to fight, that it might have just been a 1v1, because like you said, Quats and Enga are trading, they're both half health, and you kind of figure, okay, well, if I go to support my jungler, the other jungler is just going to beat my head in and I'm going to die. So they ultimately don't meet. It is Desamas able to just barely get away, and I think coming out for the most part the better of that kind of that kind of traded invade, but both junglers kind of just gonna look to start the other half of their clear, get going on their respective red buffs, and move from there. In the top side, like I said, the Aatrox doing very well into Deva Scion. But it's Scion, right? Like even if you get him low, you're bullying him.
Well,
even if you get the kill, because they might be looking for this dive. We see Desamas is going, but a very good ward there from Devast, who I don't think had vision of Desamas. He was just like, no, their jungler should have cleared through here by now. Very good tracking there from Devast to be like, this is the time that I need to place a ward down. And that means the top lane gets to stay a little bit safer. Devast, again, not too worried about falling low. He is a Scion, does not care that much about dying. And is Bookie waiting for Desamas to come over to his wolves?
Yes, he is. He's looking to... Oh, what? Really, Bookie? I'm disappointed. I thought Bookie was waiting to try and snap that away, look for that fight. But to be fair, I think in extended fights early on, yes, Noxus might be able to win out, but the early burst from Wukong is kind of scary, so you don't want to risk that. Bren, that top side, I do want to talk about that because I feel like that was also a consequence of the vertical jungle that we saw come through.
Enga falling very low. It is a flash, but it is traded back the other way. Both mid laners going to lose their flash. This is one of those things about that Orianna can be such a lane bully because of the ramping damage on the auto attack. And that's what you saw there was Quats was just bullying them with autos.
Yeah, and both of them playing with fire, right? Neither of them wants to back down. If Enga gets any sort of tag onto that, probably bursts Quats down, but Quats knows he's got the range advantage, wanted to try and play that and get the burst. Brent, the point I was trying to make before Enga and Quats got really spicy in the mid lane, which you love to see, was the fact that the vertical jungle happened, right? Because of the invades, it is VKS with the top side control, Desamas being on that top side. And that's why Devis probably knew that, okay, there is a very real potential for a dive. And more importantly, I get no cover from Bookie. Bookie wants to go back down to that bot side, get that scuttle cleared again, and continue farming as fast as he can. Toplop now trading into the bot side. Kaiwing just looking for the disengage, but CEO and Toplop significantly winning that one out. Heal had to be used by Kaiwing there.
They do use heal out. Like I said, you kind of favor the power of that Leona and the Kaisa to be just this kind of kill threat lane. If you step a foot wrong, they can just CC chain you, get that plasma stacking started. You know, you're going to immediately follow it up with a Void Seeker, with all of the Acathian Rain, and just cause problems. for anyone caught in the crossfire. But they just have to burn the heal. They're going to keep it relatively even. And compared to last game, where I feel like we got some spicy action, at least pretty early on, because of Disama stepping forward in the jungle, this lane has been much different. The shockwave does find Enga, but Toplop is there to keep his mid laner safe. And that means, once again, we're seeing lots of short trades, lots of skirmishing, but no one has fallen victim yet. But it might be now. Zenith Blade comes in between worlds immediately. The huge burst damage all comes down. And just as if to answer me, immediately Leviathan pulled the trigger. And it is Quats who falls victim. Was he a little far forward? But Cam, you blame him. That was an unexpected amount of damage.
Enga on the hunt, trying to see if he can find a little bit more in Kaiwing. It's beef on the menu, Bren. Kaiwing was just trying to hold the wave. I didn't think he would fall. He didn't think he was going to fall. Kaiwing thought that I'm holding the wave. Quats is going to get back in. I'll be fine. But Enga with the sneaky engage. And I think Kaiwing knew it as well, too. Like, you saw him running. He just couldn't run fast enough. And Enga, just like that 1-0-1, the equilibrium has broken. VKS and Leviathan. The carnival has started in game 2.
Yeah, we finally got it going, and it is Leviathan first on the board. My brain was like, wow, they're only 1 kill away from the feat of warfare.
Yeah.
You guys remember feats? Anyone else remember feats?
We don't want to.
Zenith Blade comes in immediately. Look at the timing on the Between World. The Between World almost came through before the Zenith Blade did. They just happened to lock them in place right there. And yeah, you can see Kaiwing's immediately like, uh-oh. Runs away, but just falls victim. The electrocute is what picks up the kill. That sneaky burst damage. That Aurora is effectively like an assassin in a sense, because the amount of burst damage, upfront damage that comes through when you hit like the weirding plus 2-fold hex. We are going to see the Nocturne ult used. It is dark on the map, but they get the Cyclone forward. They don't have much to go for, but they do have the Shockwave, and that will stop Bookie from reaching his tower. The ball delivery system, that consistent, CC will take down Bookie, and that is free reign for VKS to start the grubs. And thank goodness for VKS, because after those first 2 kills, I thought we were going to get another, replay of the early game from last game, where it was Leviathan just finding everything. They found the first dragon, they found the first grubs, they found the first tower, they found the first kill. And it is instead VKS going to answer back and keep this one close.
Kaiwing with the wrap around as well, has the unbreakable, so was looking to get the Alistar gank from behind the turret, not quite able to find that. So Lev stabilizing things for now, but Grubs will go over the way of VKS. And Bren, you mentioned last game, a lot of times you see Grubs sort of the consolation prize for a dragon take. Well, Grubs went down first. Dragon is still on the table, and for me, that's a clear sort of spark to see another potential team fight between VKS and Lev, because I think both of these teams not going to be the happiest with how the early game went. Lev losing that early lead, but Kate giving that early lead. I would expect them to maybe try and bring things to a head at that dragon pit.
Yeah, that dragon is such a clear place to fight. It's a good dragon too for that early game, getting those cooldowns specifically for some of these champions. That little bit of boost going to mean that little bit of extra fighting power. And both these teams, I feel like, want to fight in the mid lane, or in the mid game rather. Maybe the mid lane as well, but definitely in the mid game. And it is Leviathan first over to the dragon. They have most of the vision control, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to contest, because it is Disama's just across the map, armored as Krugs right now.
Yeah, and perhaps also the Shockwave wasn't available for Quad, so they didn't want to risk it at that point in time. Disama's kind of okay to let that one go through. We'll see if they regret it, as the first drag will go over the way of Leviathan. Bren, as you said, game right now, very, very even state. But we are seeing some advantages starting to break out in different lanes. In the bot side, CEO and Toplop starting to get the advantage. You preached on the advantages of the Leona Kai'Sa lane, so it's going exactly as you called it. But on this top side balancing things, Bull is getting a bit of a lead onto Devis, and that's one thing you love to see. Last game, Bull put on a tank on Cassante duty. Yeah, there's Cassante copy pasta for a reason, but he's not a traditional carry, whereas Aatrox 100% is a carry. You're not picking the Aatrox for tank, and I'm very excited to see what Bull can unleash in the mid game. I've not been a fan of the Aatrox jungles that we've been seeing, but Aatrox tops has traditionally delivered in the CBLOL.
Aatrox top, such a fun pick. I associate it with regions that like love to throw hands, love to just fight people, because he's just so good at that sustained fight. Forced to burn the flash, the solar flare does come out. That's a decent trade there for Leviathan. Gets the flash out of the opposing mid laner, though they do not have the solar flare for a little bit. Nothing really gonna be important coming up before that solar flare is back and ready to go. So not a big loss on that front. Yeah, like I said, I think the Aatrox is so good in the hands of regions like the CBLOL, where they can just take advantage of his ability to just sustain and fight and keep pressing forward. Talk about that advantage he's building on the top side. The gold advantage is just so close. As we're gonna get another Zenith Blade in. It's on to Kaiwing, but he's so tanky. They finally pull the trigger on to Disamus. Everybody's going in. Like I said, you have that follow-up, and it is now Quats who's caught out. They've shrung out VKS, so they can't follow this back up. The health bars are falling low, but there's no way for VKS to re-engage at this stage. And that means they're gonna pick up one for free, as well as burn a number of summoner spells. You can see multiple flashes used, the heal used. Kaiwing had to use the unbreakable as well. Cannot, keep up with that fight. And that's something I think we called out in the draft. Is one of the things Kai'Sa can do is, once we get that CC down, once we go in, can follow up for a massive amount of burst damage. It forced everyone away. And Quat's trying to run over here. You can see he's in the mid lane. He's going to try and run over and help his team. But that means once his team runs away, he's an Orianna.
Yeah, and I love how Lev kind of strung this out, because we had concerns about them naturally balling up because they're a dive composition. And you can see that multiple times they're all together. And right here, the shockwave lands on 3 members. Critically, Enga, Bookie, who's kind of low. So the concern is still there, but because Lev was the one to pull the trigger, because they found the isolated Disamus on the flank first, sure, the AoE is hitting multiple members, but they're not able to layer the AoE from VKS. So Lev are able to string that out. They get out low health, but they get out alive, whereas VKS did have to leave Disamus's cold, dead corpse on the floor on their disengage.
Yeah, it is again a good engage from Leviathan. They use a couple of resources, but they burn so much more from VKS. And that's going to matter, because we do have only a minute and a half until this next dragon is up. That means multiple flashes are still not going to be up. We're going to be down our heal as well on the side of VKS. And you mostly have those resources on the other side. You do not have your flash on your jungler or your Kai'Sa, but that's they have movement abilities right there. That's not that big a deal, right?
We'll see.
right.
Yeah, Kai'Sa has movement abilities, but we saw CEO wants to use it to get in there, so probably won't have it to get out. I'm looking kind of at Enga's flash versus Morteus's flash a little bit, as both of them are carries who do have that mobility available to them, that critical repositioning in some of these fights. A minute before Dragon and Herald spawn, Lev and VKS have been fighting a lot around this mid-bot side of the map. They really want control over the Dragon Pit top lop. Again, taking a lot of poke to clear vision, and still wants more. I'm a little bit scared of top lop doing that. You don't have any healing. You don't have any sustain as the owner there.
Yeah, but you are Leona, and there is only one direction Leona moves, and that is forward. I Zenith Blade, I stun. I Zenith Blade, I stun. If I have to throw, sometimes I pop a clip so that I don't die fast. And then I Zenith Blade, I stun. If you're picking Leona, you want to just punch people in the head. She's so good at that, and I feel like anyone who plays Leona understands why it's fun to do.
Sure.
Top just having fun.
Well, tell you what most teams enjoy doing, Bren. What they have fun doing is winning. And when you can only go in one direction, you got to make sure that you're going in that one direction at the right time. And unfortunately for Top Lop, because he chose to go earlier, he had to go back to base to heal back up. So VKS gonna be having full control over the river, over the Dragon Pit. Disamus actually starting this one up. Paranoia is available, so Bookie can go flying, but they need the vision to set up for that Paranoia.
They don't have vision. Top Lop, though, clearing forward, does miss the Zenith Blade, and that means the Dragon's gonna go down. They're not gonna find the engage. And so VKS going to kind of just like bandits, come in, ransack the place, take what they want, and leave. And Leviathan kind of left scratching their heads like, okay, well, what did we get out of the map on that front?
Nothing.
And another Zenith Blade goes wide. Could have caught Morteus, but like you said, Corki, one of the safer AD carries, has that mobility to reposition himself. And now it is Leviathan at least going to find some plates in the bot side. That's the consolation, is that Enga got a plate.
Lev still in the gold lead after all said and done. From all of that, they did actually lose the gold lead for a little bit, around the 13 sort of minute mark. So they're still in a fine position. But Bren, for VKS fans right now, you're really happy if you're a VKS fan, because the early game has gone much better for them, and more importantly, they're looking more coordinated. The decision making is looking a lot better. That dragon take was just VKS doing the right things at the right time, not making mistakes, punishing Lev for overextending in plays that, frankly, in game 1 probably would have worked out in Lev's favor, but here in game 2, not so much. Leviathan going for the Herald, and once again, Cade, it feels like Cade are saying, okay, we know we're willing to trade objectives. If we go for grubs, we're going to sack that dragon. If we go for dragon, maybe we sack this Herald. Kaiwing?
We might try to sack the Herald, but it is Kaiwing stepping forward, maybe trying to find space, trying to find vision, does get engaged on. The paranoia used, has to flash out, has to use the unbreakable will, but that means he only loses about half his health. Still has enough for it to get in there, get another, rotation of CC down. Orteas finding that damage onto the tower, does pick up a plate as well. And that means Leviathan kind of stopped the Herald, have given some time for VKS to perhaps regroup and look to contest.
Yeah, with the Shockwave and Cyclone available, I think Gate might want to look for this, but Morteas getting caught out is going to slow things right down. Top Lop has flash, can't use it.
Is it going to slow things down, RMC? It's the Zenith Blade that connects, but it's Top Lop who really finds himself out of position, has to go end. That is the problem with Leona's engage. Zenith Blade sends you forward, and did not realize that VKS was collapsing. They saw Morteas was alone, was getting pressured, and immediately everyone was coming back down. That means Kaiwing picks up some good counter CC. The Solar Flare, not enough. And that is now the Herald probably going over to VKS, because they have taken all of that pressure. It's like when you watch the air get sucked out of a room and all the candles go out. You had this fire building for Leviathan. They had this good engage, but it is actually VKS who have just snuffed it out and taken all the momentum.
But it's Lev who kind of breathed out, emptied out their lungs, and decided to just hold their breaths with no oxygen in their lungs, because Toplop is stepping up very over aggressively. And the thing too was, they knew that play was going to happen, but they knew the top laners sitting in the bot lane at the time had teleport available, and Bull was willing to pull that trigger, willing to make that happen, partially because he knows, well, even if I leave lane, even if I leave Devis alone with my turret for a while, he's not going to take the turret. This is a winning play for my team. So BKS now have that. They've got Herald in pocket. Dive on to
comes in, but Kaiwing is there, gets a knock up, and is immediately able to just convince Leviathan, hits the intimidate check, nat 20, everybody's got to leave. And that means it's going to be another kind of free play for Boal, who's just slowly getting that lead just ever so slightly larger, not just in terms of the total gold in the top side, but the pressure he is providing as well, has constantly been kind of bombarding that turret with waves, trying to, siege it almost even on an outer turret, and has, for the most part, been successful. The lane assignments are starting to shift. You can see Morteas is now very firmly equipped in that mid lane. They are going to use the Herald, and I think that's going to be first break for VKS. There's no way to stop the Herald, and the charge does more than enough damage. And they're gonna get a second charge out of this Herald, and Kaiwing maybe needs to take his driver's test again.
Yeah, he's coming from Taiwan, Hong Kong, from the LCP side of things. Probably the driver, the road conditions, road knowledge is a little bit different, so wasn't quite able to navigate that one around. It's fine though. VKS get first pick. That's the important thing. That was the Herald they managed to convert early, and they've converted directly into gold of their pockets. Ren, Lev are looking a little bit lost, gonna be honest. Bookie on this Nocturne has not been it, unfortunately. Oh, Kaiwin caught shopping a little bit. Should be fine. Bookie's
I agree. Like, Bookie on the Nocturne has not been it, and it's surprising considering how good he looked when Enga was on the Orianna and they had the Knockwave combo. But I think just the Nocturne alone has not been enough for Bookie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the timing of the paranoias as well. He's using it to gank lanes in conditions where he's not likely to be able to convert them, and that means he doesn't have them available for the plays that VKS wants to make. It's good to use it proactively, but reactively sometimes can be huge as well. We see the teleport come through from Enga on the bot side, looking for a flank position. Quats currently separated from his team, but Lev don't have the vision to really abuse that.
Enga does find the flank, but unfortunately the person he finds is Boal, and a good engage. Here comes the knockup. Kai Wing immediately moving forward. The team is fairly coordinated, but gonna get kind of strung out. They lose their vision because of the paranoia. So it's Seo who's gonna find the first kill as CEO goes in, picks up a lot of damage. They're trying to find Bookie on the back end. Now they've got him. They're surging back forward. CEO finds a second kill, is able to take down the Aatrox. Devast is low, but not going to fall. So hard to kill that Scion. And it's kind of an even trade, even though it's a 2-for-1. Both teams kind of, neither of them take the advantage and kind of have to back away. Wait, unless Desamas is just going to stay in. Hey, they don't have a jungler. I'm going to take this dragon.
Yeah, it's a right call. And the fight was on a nice edge. Leviathan barely won that out, and their health bars were actually lower. So Desam is correctly recognizing how you're all pretty squishy, except for CEO. And if CEO walks into me, I got this. Not a problem whatsoever, willing to go for the dragon. But the initiation of the fight's the interesting thing, because Enga actually pulls Bull to the side. So it should be a 4v4. But unfortunately, the shockwave from Quads only lands on the tank. So it's Devis and Toplop. Notably, CEO is fine, is safe, and Enga was completely sidelined in the first place. So he was never at risk of a shockwave. And after that's done, Bookie goes into the backline and distracts everybody. And that's kind of the death warrant for VKS in this fight, was that everybody went for Bookie. You left Bull kind of on his own trying to 1v4 or 1v3, as the case might be in that situation. He wasn't able to do so. The moment he's down, the moment Moteus is kind of forced out like that, VKS weren't going to win the extended fight, so they kind of had to reset. The fact that Desamas gets the dragon after that is a little bit criminal, but a fantastic call from Desamas individually as a jungler.
Yeah, he just recognizes nobody can really fight me. I have the upfront burst with, you know, the extra damage if the dragon were to aggro on them as well. They can't really contest. And so he does pick up that dragon, and it is the Infernal Drake, which I really think VKS, it's good for VKS. It's fine for VKS. They do not want to give over an Infernal Soul to Leviathan with how burst heavy that composition is, with how, you know, like how strongly they can just set up a pick with the paranoia, with the, you know, solar flare. They have way too many options for that kind of just, we're going to find a guy, we're going to kill a guy. They are going to use that paranoia. It is near the tower. Shockwave comes through, but Enga does get the kill. He's on a killing spree. Quats is the first to fall. The Cyclone coming through, that sustained damage doing its work. It is Enga who falls back the other way. Now everyone's finally here. Solar Flare came through, but didn't really find its value. Bookie going to be the next to fall, but Kai Wing taking that damage is not enough. And it is VKS able to counter collapse here. Everyone kind of in position. You took far too long to kill Quads on that top side. And because of that, VKS had enough time to reposition and punish you. You got very low. They just immediately start up the Baron. CEO is still here. Gonna try and find them, but Kai Wing on that flank goes over the wall, gets the pulverize onto Devas, and they're gonna turn immediately. Bolal goes in, but cannot find it. They're falling too low. The Baron debuff doing its job. The Acathian Rain spreading the damage across. And that means after this extended fight, RMC, it's a couple of picks, nothing more, no Baron, no objective.
Yeah, that buff onto Baron certainly making it much harder for teams to be able to take that one. And this was a high-risk play from Leviathan. If they got the pick, if this worked out, they were going to transition for Baron. And yeah, unfortunately, it took a surprisingly long amount of time to get Quats down, but I'm more shocked by how long Enga lived. Even here with the Cyclone, he's still alive for the bulk of time, and it's actually Lev who rotates earlier first. Morteus is the last one to the party, but Bull is so far ahead, and I think a critical part of this was Devis. We saw Devis use the Pain Train, the Unstoppable Onslaught into the mid lane earlier to look for a gank, so his ult was down. It wasn't available. He wasn't able to churn out the CC, whereas Bull shows up, is able to use Road Ender, and he's having so much more impact in the fight. So for Leviathan, yes, they get there first. Yes, they pull the trigger first. Things look like they're good for them, but they didn't have the big tools they needed for the extended fight, and that came back to bite them. It's props to them for being able to stall out Devis and CEO. No fear in a 2v4 situation, able to stall out the Baron, and the game continues. 900 gold at this point for VKS. That advantage is next to nothing. Teams are dead even as far as I'm concerned.
The teams are dead even, but where the advantages are found are quite different. A mid lane and bot lane advantage there for Leviathan, but the top side of the map doing so well for VKS. Desamas, a 4-0-2 game, you know, and if you're just looking at scoreline, you gotta feel bad for poor Quads over at 0-4-2, but in a sense, he's kind of done his job. Like
Yeah.
he's a shockwave merchant. He does that in a fight, and if he dies after that, he dies. He's kind of paid the price a few times for his team, but now it
Oh.
might be Morteus. He's all alone. They are able to get him down. Now the team once again gonna try and chase Bookie, but Bookie more than able to get out this time. And that's what this composition wants to do, right? Find those picks, find that burst damage, get a kill down. And Morteus was a prime target. A lot of damage to come through from that Corki in extended team fights. Now it's not there, and it's VKS who are going to have to try and stall out, either protect this tower or try and rotate to that top side where it is now Enga getting the split pushes. You can see in the picture-in-picture.
Dragon coming up in 5 seconds. That's what Leviathan has decided to go for. Baron is hard to take. Dragon is a lot easier. Devist front lining for now. You can see how tanky he is. Without Morteus, there's no real risk. We saw Enga just kind of teleporting right past our screens. Is going to look for a flank position. Do VKS try and go for this inner mid turret? That feels like a massive overextension. Desamas chunked before he can even look at the Dragon.
Yeah, really good play off the vision there from Enga. Jumps around the wall, immediately hits the combo that he needs to do. And with such a big burst, that means there's no chance to contest. They were down their ADC the entire time.
Oh.
And we're going to get a teleport back out onto the map. Kaiwing trying to get out here and immediately set back up vision, not let Leviathan get set up on this top side. The Baron's still very much in play. We're at 27 minutes now. These teams are strong enough to take this buff.
The Scryer is being popped, Sweeper is being used. Vision will still be held in VKS's favor. Quad's teleporting into that top side as well to get that early shove going. And VKS, I think they've learned their lesson from the last time. They're not going to start up the Baron, but they are looking to see if they can maybe facilitate a pick for now. Devis now back in the bot side with Bull. Unstoppable Onslaught off cooldown as well. So the bot laners, or top laners going bot. I keep calling them bot laners, bro, because they keep sitting in the bot lane. I think they've spent more time in the bot lane now than the actual AD carries and supports. But yeah, they're just back down there, ping pong the waves. And yeah, we're back to a stale, kind of even state of the game. We've criticized Lev in the past for struggling to close games out. This is not one of them. This is a game where it's so dead even. Both teams are scared to make a misstep. Whoever screws up will lose Baron and will lose a lot of gold with the standing turrets still on the map for both sides.
Yeah, but they have a death bush in the top side.
Oh.
The observers just showed us that in time to see Enga get deleted. It's Leviathan that we had focused on talking about their ability to get picks, find burst plays, but it's VKS that are actually using it here, and they're going to take out one of the biggest tools that Leviathan has in a team fight, and that is Enga's ultimate. And so if they can look to find something here on the map, not just the pick, but that did cost them, right? They did lose both the Cyclone and the Shockwave. Neither are up. And so we're going to get some map pressure, but nothing more to come other than that than just the kill.
And that's kind of the problem between the sort of two compositions. If Lev finds a pick right now, they're probably burning Paranoia to do it, which isn't a huge team fight ultimate, especially the way Bookie's been using it. He's not been using it for vision denial. He's not been using it in team fights to pick off backline targets. He's been using it solely as a sort of catch tool. So if they use that, that's fine. Lev can still look at Baron and can still look for a team fight. But for VKS, if you're burning Cyclone Shockwave, that is the fundamental foundation of your team fighting. And if that's down, even if you've got a man up, VKS are still not looking for action. So it's just a little bit more gold going the way of VKS's pocket. And earlier we said, okay, they're up 900 gold, not significant. Despite the catch, Bren, their gold lead actually shrank. They're down to like somewhere fluctuating in the range of 500 gold lead, which is half of the gold lead they had when we said that, what, a couple of minutes ago, 2-3 minutes ago?
Yeah, it's been kind of predicated on finding those breaks onto the towers, finding those plates, finding that farm. So the map state mattering far more than just fights right now. VKS is so focused on not giving up this vision in the top side, not giving up this space, that Leviathan has kind of put themselves elsewhere on the map to play out from there. It is CEO that is doing the lion's share of the gold generation for Leviathan, and they're more than happy to take that. This is the Kaisa build that has kind of taken over, by the way. This is the Rageblade Dusk and Dawn Kaisa, and it works so wonderfully as both a burst engager, someone that can come in and immediately get a bunch of damage down, but also as a sustained fighter, because once the Rage Blade stacks up, all of those on hits are really, really strong. And so Kai'Sa able to have kind of the best of both worlds this season, a very, very dangerous combatant. And it's on, I would say, Leviathan's consistent best player this split has been CEO. So VKS has to watch out for that.
And the big risk, of course, with that build, of course, being that you have to be in short range to actually get those autos off to proc that plasma stacks that Kai'Sa puts down. But CEO's been navigating the fights phenomenally well. We had concerns about how short range his AD carry was and that you're balling up into a composition that does very well in AoE in tight corridors. But CEO is 3-0 and 0, and he hasn't dodged all the shockwaves necessarily, but he's never died from it, which is a huge win as far as you're concerned. VKS now getting turrets in both side lanes. I keep going back to this, Brendan. I know like it's kind of a broken record at this point, but 1k gold lead after taking both outer side lane turrets, it's just not significant. VKS are getting incremental leads which don't mean anything, and they've taken so long that Dragon is about to respawn again. This will be third drink for either team that can actually get it, and Dragons are so much easier to take. So yeah, this one should result in a fight or at least some sort of action.
It's Boal who's on the flank. The paranoia does come out. He's going forward onto Bookie, but Bookie finds the opportunity. A shockwave comes through to buy time, but it is CEO with the follow-up. The damage is big. Boal, though, in the front line will not be denied. Going forward, that CEO down. Boal just buying space, forces Toplop out as well. Disamus nearly falls, but he has the GA, more than happy to just dish out this damage. Boal continuing to just harass Devast, and something that's been kind of our underrated matchup. These two top laners both playing fairly well this game. I think even down 2k, the Scion is still doing his job. But after that fight, it was Boal just all the way, taking space, forcing people to play around him. You'll see he's on this flank, does show himself when Bookie pops the paranoia, but as soon as Bookie goes in, Boal knows his target. He pops the World Ender, and look, as soon as he sees that where CEO is, he's immediately locked on. Like, that's the guy.
Yeah, and the big thing to me was the Cyclone that came through from Samus there, because CEO was looking to go in. He waited the shockwave out, and we're talking about how CEO's been so patient, so good with his positioning, but the Samus outweighted him. And the moment that Cyclone came through, CEO flying in with that killer instinct, got knocked up, wasn't actually able to position properly, and that was what allowed Bo to come in and clean up. And then you talk about the top laners as well. Bo and Devast, they're both playing amazing games, but they are not the same. Devast is attacking. He's buying space. He's buying time. But Bo is buying lives. He's getting in there. And the moment CEO gets taken out, yes, CEO is amazing. CEO's been doing a lot of work. But if CEO's dead, where does Lev go to carry on this fight?
They didn't have the sustained damage to come through, and that means the third dragon going over to VKS. And like we said, this is going to be a very impactful soul for both these teams. That huge amount of extra damage, barring everyone except Devast, is going to hate the enemy team having an Infernal Soul. Devast is like, yeah, okay, it's bad, I guess. It hurts. But everyone else is like, it's going to start deleting health bars, and these top laners are continuing to just go. I love the side lane. They are going to continue to try and fight, and it is actually Devast confidently stepping forward because, again, he's Scion, and he actually has a teammate not too far away. Tries to use the unstoppable onslaught. That could matter, RMC.
Yeah, we've seen Devast use it multiple times before fights have broken out, and not having that CC is kind of massive. Heck, even that last fight, Devast forcing the fight with that ultimate, the team was not there, so we didn't see the impact from it. And as soon as you kind of talked about, Bren, as soon as that ult comes out, because like, well, okay, I think we're strong enough now, 35 minutes in, that we can do Baron. No unstoppable onslaught, no numbers advantage, no TP for Devast either. We can do this.
Exactly. Yeah, they have the numbers advantage, but it is a good flank. Here comes the damage between worlds. Paranoia does its job, but it's on to Bookie, who has the it's on to Morteus, rather. Bookie has the GA and is able to stay alive in the backline. Quats is falling low. It is really so much damage. While trying to find what he can, Disamus stepping forward. His GA is going to now get popped, and he is surrounded. Kaiwing coming back. They finally pop Bookie's GA. They're trying to find something, but a really great engage there from Leviathan onto just the right members of VKS. And so the numbers advantage does not matter. They wait just long enough. Devast gets into the fight anyways. Now, can Kaiwing and Boal do something? They decide better of it.
No, they don't have the range to do it. When we saw the defense from CEO and Devis earlier, it's because CEO had the range, could kite around, but Bo has the hard commit, and VKS don't want to do it. Baron, is that first Baron? First Baron of the game.
First Baron at 35 minutes.
Yeah, it took forever, and look at CEO's damage in that last fight. He was kiting them around. To give credit to Morteus, Morteus was the first person to drop from VKS, and he still pumped out comparable damage there to Bull, to Disamis was able to do stuff. And as the fight breaks out, first of all, the shred from Baron is good, but the focus onto Morteus, I think, is key. And this is why I was saying that Paranoia is such a good teamfight tool that Bookie, up to this point, had not been using in team fights. He'd been using it to get picks, but he turns off the light, he isolates Morteus, and there's no backup. Nobody knows where Morteus is or is able to get there, is comfortable doing that. And once the AD carry goes down, this game has just been about AD carries. It's whack-a-mole. Kill the AD carry, win the fight. CEO lives, he's able to continue raining down damage and threaten everything else. And most importantly, CEO lives, they have the damage to actually take Baron. Oh, VKS
yeah,
fans.
the VKS faithful not happy about that one, but the game is not over. The gold lead is about 3K. It's going to be tough to deal with. The Paranoia comes out, but it's a stasis target. The flash comes through for Quats. I want to point out, Quats died to a Void Seeker in that last fight, just absolutely sniped by CEO. And we cannot overstate how good of a game this guy is playing.
It is, and for Quats too, he was like stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like Baron was gonna kill him if CEO didn't.
Exactly.
But CEO gets the snipe, and that's gold credit to CEO. So CEO more than happy with that. The Baron push starts to come through. We're talking about the gold fluctuation that could go over with how still the game was. Huge for Lev. BKS trying to find an engage onto CEO, Bookie, and Toplop, but I guess when Toplop's not looking for the engage, it's not that easy to actually catch the Leona.
Yeah, the Leona going to walk away, but Kaiwing going to find some people out in the jungle, forces the Between Worlds, forces Enga out. And they do use the World Ender to do that, but they kind of relieve some of the pressure from their base. So not the worst trade, except Devis is now the top laner moving forward, takes out Morteus, and that could be the game right there, RMC.
Yeah, and Brother Morteus went down solo. There was no assist credit to Devist. He just found Morteus overextending, punishing him. We talked about this. This game's been AD carry centric. With Morteus down, you can see how comfortable, how confident Leviathan is to push him. There is still a Cyclone Shockwave combo, but Quats and Disamis, that's a Hail Mary and a half.
Here comes the engage. Disamis trying to buy his space, but immediately falls. Enga does so much damage. And we were worried all this time about the Dragon Soul, but it is Baron Nashor that proves to be the worm that broke the Vivo K-Star's back. And it's a second game for Leviathan. And this is a very different style. You know, we're always talking about Leviathan plays the early game out well, and then if they get that lead, they snowball and they go crazy. Yeah. This was so close for so long. And they still managed to pull it out. And now it's a 2-0 series. And Leviathan are more than happy with the way this is played out. I think that they've got some mistakes to correct, sure, but like they seem to be in good spirits. They seem to be kind of happy with the way this is played out. And now they get to play from a position of heavy comfort. They're so far ahead. I think the pressure really might be, relieved. At least for that team. I think on the other side, maybe not so much.
And Brent, why wouldn't you be in good spirits when you're up 2-0 in a best of 5, one more to take it home, and you've got so much leeway, such a large margin of error should things go wrong in game 3? Not that I'm saying they will. And for Leviathan, say what you want about how long it takes for them to close out games, but they do eventually win. It just takes a long time, like this one. VKS, on the other hand, this is a crisis situation for them, Bren. They are reigning champions. To go out like this, not with a bang, but with a whimper. And Quats, I think, performed really well in this game too. That Orianna that we were talking about, he looked so much more comfortable on it. He was having so much more impact. It wasn't him that cost the game. Instead, it was Morteus. Let's call him a superstar AD carry at this point, because he came in last year, took down names, stats were through the roof. He looked like a fantastic promotion for VKS. It looked like a glowing recommendation for the VKS Academy, its training program, and how they're finding more and more talent. But this game, dying solo to a Scion in mid lane. Heck, it wasn't even solo because it was a 2v1. He had Disarmus in his back pocket and still died to the Scion. Like, I don't even know how we're going to approach it.
Scion just has, it's Valentine's Day. Scion just has more energy. Like, he's solo. He doesn't, you know, Devas doesn't need his date. He doesn't need his top laner. He doesn't need someone else to come hold his hand in the mid lane, you know. He's just got big solo bolo energy regardless.
Yeah, solo kill. I mean, he was 14 coming to today. He's up to probably 16 by now, but doing it on a Scion too, Brand, that is absolutely disgusting. So huge props to Leviathan. Kate Stars, instead of, you know, having less questions and more confidence, I'm having more questions as this series goes on. And yeah, Coach CL has his work cut out for him in the green room. The whole team has their work cut out for them to look for a reverse sweep. Can you imagine that, Brent? If they can pull it off,
I can't imagine it. I'm envisioning it in my head. But we've got a couple of minutes to sit and think about it. A couple of minutes for CL to get his team in line. And when we come back, we could have potentially the final game of the series if Leviathan locks in. You do not want to miss it, folks. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We have a delightful, depending on who you are, game 3 for you. Leviathan up in the series 2-0, and VKS on the face of elimination from the split. Needs a reverse sweep to stay in it. As always, I am SuperBren. I'm joined by RMC, and we're just kind of along for the ride, I feel like.
Well, I'm hoping VKS isn't just along for the ride, Brent, because after last game, I worry that their mentals might be broken a little bit. They were doing so well last game. They were so competitive until they weren't. They were literally winning till they lost. And then...
That's true.
Yeah, everything kind of just fell apart all of a sudden. Now, Brent, for VKS to win this, for them to start a reverse sweep, I feel like they need a hero at this point, and that's what they've been lacking for a lot of the split. And if we can pull up a graphic, if they have a hero, if they need a hero, I'm looking at the one guy who hasn't thrown or soft into the series yet. It's got to be Bull. Bull has to step up huge for this team, and for him to do that, he's got to do it to Devis, which is a really, really hard ask in a way. Like, Devis has been performing phenomenally this series.
Yeah, I think we have a graphic ready to go for Devis versus Bull, but just to kind of,
there we go.
There we are. We pull them up. We get to see their stats. Bull on the left, Devis on the right. Devis has, like, we've harped on it so much, 14 solo kills, because that guy's just a psychopath. It's more than that now because he did it more last game. But everywhere else, Bull has kind of had the advantage there, and you saw it in the last game. He had a massive gold lead. Obviously, Sion not like so depressed about not having items, not having a gold lead, and was still able to find value. But where the fights where VKS did really well, I feel like it was Blau that was buying space, like, you know, moving forward, dealing damage for the team. And so if they want to find another, you know, big win for their like team fighting, it has to come through Boal again. They put him on a carry last game. They did not win, but he performed admirably. So I wonder what they're going to do this game. As we get in, the junglers are very different. We have a Pantheon and a Kiana so far.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because I'm looking at the bans too. Lev also, I think, recognized that Bull is sort of the rock of the team right now. So they banned out 2 top laners in the first phase, and Bessa and Renekton both taken out. But Kiana for the Samus, he was the first guy to whip it out in CBLOL Cup this year. That tells me that they're not looking necessarily at Bull to be a carry. They're actually giving the reins over to Desamis, and by putting Morteus on Ezreal as well, they're kind of saying, okay, this might be a every man for himself situation where Morteus doesn't have to rely on anybody. He's got his own escapes. He's got his own agency. Desamis, as the Kiana, can come in, clean house, do his own thing as well. Once you get a couple of kills under Kiana's belt, she can just solo out squishy targets. So, yeah, and speaking of squishy targets, we already knew Pantheon was locked in, but they've gone for Lucian for CEO in this lane against Ezreal. Lev are saying, okay, we see your hands challenge, and we say bet.
Yeah, it is Lucian and Nami going to be that bot lane there. For the side of Leviathan, a very, very strong, like you said, hands check, the ability to dump out damage pretty high. The Nico coming back the other direction. And honestly, I gotta say, it broke my brain when you're like, yeah, Leviathan banned 2 top laners. I was like, no, that's 3 top laners. Malphite's a jungler now. If you guys haven't played in season 2026, that guy's a jungler and a very dangerous one. So that's why we saw him banned away. We're gonna see the Silas come out, a couple of good ults for him to steal with the supreme display of talent with the Pop Blossom. So not surprising to find that one banned away. Also, Enga playing particularly well this series, so keeping that pick out of his hands, probably particularly smart. And now we're going to see what Leviathan wants to ban out for their last bans. They're going to get rid of the Jax, so they are still indexing into this top side, making it really, really hard for Ball to play the game.
Potentially 3 bans. So what are we going to see next? Zahen? I'm trying to think what other top laners we've been seeing.
Like, I'll say, let me pulling up the top lane U.GG tier list by win rate, challenger level.
Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, like what more can people play? They've banned out so many top laners.
When?
Maybe VKS is pulling up the tier list, because my goodness, they're very deep into the pool, because we already have 4 top laners banned by Fearless, 3 top laners banned out because of actual bans. So you're looking at what your 8th best top laner at this stage, gonna be pretty tough to find an angle in. It is Ari that is the last ban, taking away something from Quats that would be safe and easy to play. On the flip side, they ban out the Akali if you are VKS, taking away something that is a lot less safe, but a lot more explosive, taking out of the hands of Enga. We're seeing this next pick come through. Who are they going to pick for? And I saw it on Morteus's screen. It is going to be that Victor, which is a nice, safe pick. Like you said, this kind of, it feels like every man for themselves. Keep yourself safe. Like, we just got to play out almost kind of this disconnected solo queue style. Everyone just needs to play it to the best of their ability. And that is a good pick to kind of facilitate that. Has the ability to keep themselves safe, also can just kind of deal damage over top of a team fight. We have seen the Zoe, and it will come out. And that is a dangerous pick, and Quats has no movement to get away from it.
Yeah, and Leviathan really indexing into matching hands, saying, okay, we forget any tankiness, forget survivability. We are just going to outdamage you. I would love a cannon lock-in as well for Leviathan at this point, because they already have so much pick potential with the Pantheon, with Lucian and Zoe as well. Those two are more range pick with the culling. Cannon locked in from Devis. This is counter engage. Because Cade have to engage into Leviathan. If you're just playing the poke war, you're not going to win. A single CP triple bubble, and anybody on Cade stars dies. And on top of that, because of this composition, Cade kind of need a tank. You need somebody who can get hit by CP triple bubble and won't instantly get one shot. So, yeah, you can tell that Cade recognized that as well. They're thinking about the Ornn with Sion already off the table. Ornn, Shen, those are sort of the other two. Maybe a Poppy. But if they pick this, then they run into a problem where Kennen can just run that lane 1v1 anyways. And if your Kennen gets fed enough, he becomes a huge engage threat instead of just a counter engage threat.
Yeah, and it is that Ornn. They like I said, they went on to the U.GG tier list. They were like, oh, let's sort top laners by win rate. Who's good at the video game? Ornn wins a heck of a lot, and for good reason. That champ is really, really gross. But it's going to be tough into that Kennen lane. Kennen kind of gets to do what he wants for, the first 15 minutes until lane assignments kind of get all jarbled around. And Bull essentially has to eat everything for his team, whereas Leviathan just kind of gets to just step on the gas and just keep accelerating. If they win, it's going to be explosive and fast. If they lose, oh well, we have 2 more games to close out this series. But the draft is looking a little bit tough, because really, what do VKS do here? Their draft seems a little bit disconnected, where I think Leviathan has more of an identity that they can play around.
Okay, Bren, I'll trade you an answer for an answer. So I'll answer your question about what he just want to do. If you tell me, what is Ornn's win rate? Like, where is he on that tier list you mentioned? I'm actually curious now.
So if we go into like Ornn win rate just total, I think across everything, it's like he's like a 52% win rate in solo queue right now. The guy's kind of cool.
But on the tier list, where does that put him? Like, is that high?
U.GG, according to U.GG, he is S to S plus tier, and puts him by win rate. He is 3rd by U.GG's whatever metrics they use to determine tiers. He is S at 10th place. So
okay, fair.
And that's kind of where we saw him get picked, is like the 10th top laner. I don't know what you do besides like just throw up your hands and be like, pick someone who's generically good, like Ornn. Ornn is never like a bad pick, because there's just so much focus on that top lane, which is been such a steady part for VKS. He caught so many bans, dude.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, we already talked about, they needed the tank anyways to survive the Zoe and the potential pick potential that Lev's composition has as a whole. But VKS now actually have engage options as well, and I think that's critical, because when you're up against a poke composition, especially a squishy composition like Lev has, or squishy compositions in general, it's whoever pulls the trigger first. So now Bull is going to have to be the hero for his team, not in terms of damage, like what we were thinking or what we were talking about a little bit in the pregame, but more in being able to find the Call of the Forge God, find that engage on the Ornhorn. If he can find, 4 or 5 man knockup, especially on Devist, and if they're able to burst Devist down, then VKS will be able to roll through that fight. They have a strong front to back. More importantly, they have a front, whereas Lev doesn't. So if Lev gets caught, they die. It's going to be a lot about who finds the engage first. Can you dodge out the engage from Ornn? Because without the engage from Ornn, then Lev are much more in the driver's seat, much more comfortable, able to pick and choose when they want to engage, and more importantly, win out that sort of face-off poke war.
Yeah, they can. You mentioned Kennen and like being that a very hard counter engage threat doesn't work as well when you have the ability to engage from such a distance, like you said with the Call of the Forge God, and it works both ways because the Call of the Forge God is also a sort of counter engage threat. So Vickers have given themselves some answers. Again, also just a generically very strong pick who just tends to do very well in pro play. Ornn is kind of, he's one of those champs I see is kind of evergreen. Even the metas that don't heavily favor him, he's fine. And because of that, it's going to give them some options to play out this game. Now, Quats kind of taking the early poke advantage in this mid lane. Does still have a potion in his pocket. How do you see this game kind of playing out early on? Like, where are we going to see the focus?
Bot lane, apparently. Well, to be fair, I think bot lane has the most kill threat in the early game, because Zoe does need items to really be that big sort of one-shot threat for the most part. So I'm not surprised to see Quats get that early shove off in the mid lane and actually being able to trade, especially with Q spam. Bookie? Okay, I did not expect that. What?
Bookie uses the empowered E, uses the Mortal Will empowered E to get the move speed to then flash in, hit a W, forces the flash out of Quats. And, you know, otherwise he just sits there and gets tap queued and it's Jover for him. And while so this is the last time I remember seeing the Zoe played. Yep. This is Enga's Zoe. Now, granted, this was against Pain Gaming, who didn't have a great regular season, that is to be said.
But to be fair, so the comparisons are apt.
It was a pretty good showing, as you can see. 900 damage a minute as a very heavily burst champion that's not going to like sustain damage through a team fight is kind of ridiculous. And now without the flash, Bookie having burned the flash off of Quats, Enga might have an angle to get something done here early.
Yeah, and a lot of it will just come down to, can you get the CC down, CP triple bubble max range. But bot lane actually has kill threat, and you're seeing Morteus and Kaiwing get the counter punch. So in the mid lane, it's going to be fairly one-sided. Quats is just going to push. Enga's going to look for pick potential. Top side, it's going to be Devis just bullying out Bull with range advantage. But bot lane, it could swing either way. We talk a lot about Lucian Nami. They have a lot of burst power. Devis throwing blind, doesn't find anything. But Ezreal Nico as well has a lot of poke to be able to answer, so it's less all in, more about poke on that bot side, and that's why I'm a little bit surprised to see Bookie spend sort of that flash in the mid lane instead of the bot lane. Like, yeah, he did look for a gank the bot lane, couldn't find the angles, but you can use the flash to kind of brute force a little bit more on the bot side, especially onto the Nico side of it, where she doesn't have a lot of escapes and she's very squishy. Now that Bookie has burnt his flash, though, it's a lot more on top lob to be able to find those bubbles to set up action in the bot side, to set up positive action in the bot side for Leviathan.
Leviathan, you know, has shown that they can kind of keep up with most anyone in the early game. And the question was always about later, but last game, I think they showed us that they can close out an even game a little later. It did take a couple of mistakes from their opponent. So are they going to get the fights started early? They do get that W down. A good follow-up with the bubble. A Sleepy Trouble bubble. A different type of bubble finds its way into the mid lane, but the ultimate comes out. They're on to Enga. They get the root down, and Enga will eventually burn the flash, and that is the real flash, not one he managed to spell thief off of a minion or something. Yeah, and so because of that, it's now no flashes in the mid lane.
I'm not sold by Enga using that flash right there. Funnily enough, he held it for so long, and I actually think he got out of the kill zone and then used the flash when he should have either used it earlier or later. But very disjointed play from Leviathan. You saw the CC chains come through. Like, you saw the Pantheon stun, you saw the bubble to follow up. But Enga used his Sleepy Trouble bubble instead of, you know, following up on Nami's bubble onto Quats on the side instead. So the damage got very split up. If they had dumped it on any one person, whether it be Desamus or Quats, probably flushed blood on the table. So for Leviathan, not the ideal start to their game, but you can see the potential for the combos they're looking for. Whereas for VKS, they dumped a lot to try and make something happen there. And like I said, I think actually Enga might have been able to walk that off. So a lot tougher for VKS, at least in the early game, to look for action in the mid and top sides.
Yeah, we've been talking about these lane matchups quite a bit. The next thing I kind of want to look at is this jungle. That's where the advantage has come out for VKS. That Kiana has a really quick clear. Morteus, you talked about that burst potential, that all in, the calling comes out, and Morteus has to arcane shift away, loses half his health. Highwing burns the heal, and they are going to get the true shot barrage over the top. They do punch back fairly effectively, but there's that Kiana I was talking about coming down. They don't have vision. Seo's very far forward. Samus is in there, has the root, has the supreme display of talent, and that's first blood for VKS, finally punching first in the series.
And for Kiana, her early ganks aren't that impactful. She does, well, her pre-6 ganks aren't that impactful. She needs a lot of setup from the lane. She doesn't even have a big burst really until she starts getting items. But Samus, we mentioned he was the first sort of Kiana jungler player this year for CBLOL. And he went off to a rip-roaring start. And one of the things I think he does very well is he's very patient with his Kiana play. He knows when to really look for ganks. He didn't look for a gank before this, and when he finally does, look at the angle he's coming from too. Top has one shot, because he's not 6 yet, to try and stop this kill, and it doesn't work. And the moment that happens, unfortunately for CEO, he's cut off. He's dead to rights. Samus able to pick that one up is going to be huge, because he wants to accelerate. He's actually the big carry for this team more than anyone else. His burst could very well decide the mid to late game action.
Yeah, finds that first blood. Ooh. Oh my goodness, the paddle star just obliterating Kai Wing's health bar there. Leviathan going to use their pressure they've built up to step onto this first dragon. But yeah, like you said, it is kind of Samus that's going to have to be that carry. Does have, you know, a fairly quick clear, is using that to get some good farm in, but is going to have to just simply trade the first objectives. You can see he is up on the grubs. Leviathan going to get the first dragon, and VKS off to a better start than the previous games, it must be said, but not so unbelievably fast that Leviathan isn't going to be able to just punch right back.
The goal is pretty much that even for all that Samus has accelerated himself on his team, if you look across the board, Morteus and Kai Wing have a negligible lead. That's just kind of minion waves bouncing. But the solo lanes for Leviathan have been taking off. Enga already starting to get a lead even before his first item is completed. Granted, there has been a lot of attention from Leviathan as a whole into that mid lane, so that's helping out Enga. But top side, there's been zero attention up there, no interference. It's been a straight 1v1, and Devis up 25 CS already. That's more than 25% lead over Bull just in terms of CS, and that is the big concern. That is the big issue. We talked about what Bull can do for his team, how a lot of is on his shoulders in the mid to late game. Well, Devis can do the same, or arguably even more, especially in the mid game. The spike for Kennen comes earlier, faster, and besides Bull, everybody else in VKS is very, very squishy.
Yeah, it's gonna have lots of prime targets to get that, you know, big burst engage into once that power spike comes through. Like I said, the range advantage being a big problem here for Boal, who just can't keep up in that farm department. Very, very tough for him to play into the Kennen, but luckily for him, Ornn can just kind of passively sit back, does scale exceptionally well, getting those percent extra stats. The Pop Blossom comes out, they do find a catch on a top lop. He'll be the first to fall, but Bookie going to use the Grand Starfall, flashes over the wall, uses the Aegis Assault, and Samus just gonna use the flash to get away. It is a trade of supports, a trade of ultimates, a trade of flashes, and it ends up just being a 1-for-1, not much more to find.
Samus looking to just delay the recall of Bookie, not quite in time, and yeah, 1-for-1 trade, but I think CEO going to be quite happy with how that one went out, considering that he was already winning that lane. Now, here's the interesting thing too, because Bookie is calling for the gank. Top Lop recognizes that Kai Wing is separated, and they actually had full vision of the Samus as well. Lev, I think, just not expecting Samus to go quite that hard, and Samus, zero hesitation, willing to go in, and we talked about giving him the kills is actually very beneficial to the team. He's probably the best guy to get snowballing for VKS, so VKS gonna be happy despite the fact that Morteus is still struggling in lane a little bit. They're getting gold on the right players. For Leviathan, I almost feel like they want their gold mostly on the solo lanes, onto Enga, onto Devist, and yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't Enga or Devis picking up that particular kill.
They did not get it quite onto the players that they want, but The kill going to be appreciated nonetheless, because it
Oh,
kind of felt like,
top.
oh, top lop caught out by the death bush, and that's another kill for Disamus. I was so caught up thinking about the last play. Maybe he was too. We got the teleport coming in. Kaiwing going to be the sacrificial lamb, but the ultimate, the lightning storm does catch Disamus, does not get away, and Enga going to pick up that kill. And so even though VKS find that pick, they give up 2 in exchange. Now on the flip side, VKS on the top side pushing that top wave.
Yeah, and that's a big cost from Leviathan to make that call. I can almost feel the frustration coming from Leviathan and saying, enough. Disamus is running roughshod over us. We don't have an answer on the bot side. Devast TP now. Because, like you said, Bull gets all that solo time to the top side. That's a lot of gold going in his pocket. But without Devast, things go poorly. And for top lop, really unfortunate. Who's expecting Disamus?
I wasn't.
Yeah, great shout out from the CBLOL camera crew, from the observers, to actually toggle the vision to show us that was going to happen when the play was being set up. And unfortunately for Toplop, your outer turrets are still up in mid and bot lane. So why would this Samus be in your jungle? And he's just walking through, gets caught, gets punished. But the immediate collapse from Leviathan is good. The chase down, though, had to be almost excessive to make that happen. They do get the kill onto the Samus. That's a lot of gold going to Enga. So Lev is going to be happy with that. But letting Bull back into the game as a trade-off, well, we'll see whether or not that comes back to bite them. Because Kate now, with that gold lead, continue to maintain that slightest of gold leads right now that they've had throughout the early game.
Yeah, now we can see that the lane assignments are starting to shift. Our marksman getting moved over into the mid lane, our mid lane getting moved into the bot lane, and both junglers getting ready for this drag that is about to come up RMC. One of these teams wants to get set up first, and I think if you're Leviathan, it's you, right? You want to be there throwing the trouble bubbles over the wall, forcing them to kind of walk into you. And so VKS going to use a lot of effort. The Pop Blossom coming through, the Tidal Wave not doing enough. Here comes the Shield Vault, but it's not going to do anything. Disamus picks up another kill. Not 100% kill participation, but 100% kills secured, as he is 4-1 for his team's 4 kills.
Yeah, and again, every time Disamus gets a kill, VKS is sharing a little bit inside. And for Lev, you were talking about who wants to get there first. I'm going to argue that Lev just didn't want that dragon, or didn't want to be in that area whatsoever. They don't want that second Drake, because Devis had already used his teleport to get to that bot lane, so he was never going to be able to leave top lane. Whereas, as we saw, Bull had teleport. Now, it didn't make a difference, the fact that Bull actually ended up having that teleport, but it's still risky. Supreme display of talent. Did it actually secure the red buff? I can't tell. Bookie killed him so fast that it might just have been a buff transfer.
Regardless, Disamus, I think maybe a little overconfident to be taking his opponent's red buff when, you know, his opponent has a global ultimate.
He had 2 items, so he probably felt really confident that, like, I got this.
Did not work out. Kaiwing, though, does find the root, but immediately caught by the slicing maelstrom. Kotz is there, gets the damage back over, does get the kill, but Devas comes back over, or sorry, and Bookie rather comes back over, has the red buff, does kill Kaiwing with the red buff burn. Quats is running. He's on his way through the jungle. Can he get away? He has to stop. He's trying to get the CC down. He gets executed, RMC.
You know, again, this is Quats' debut in Tier 1. It's kind of funny to me that is one of the highlight plays of his debut.
That's an insane, like, we're gonna joke like, haha, the highlight play of his debut was dying, but that's an insanely heads-up play to buy exactly enough time, use the shield to dodge out on any damage, and then just take the execute. That's high-level stuff.
It is. It wasted a lot of time from Bookie there. He doesn't get the kill credit for the time that he spent. Yeah, solid play from Quats in a very rough position. But the fact that they started that with a 2v1 onto Devis is very concerning. Now, they're looking for Bull. I don't know how I feel about this one. I don't think they actually have enough sustained damage to take Bull down. Not unless Enga lands at least one or maybe preferably two paddle stars before they go in. Desamas was looking to reciprocate on the bot side. Might yet do it because Kaiwing looks like he wants the hard commit down here, and the Slicing Maelstrom is about to come off cooldown. Okay, he knows
they're looking for Devast. He's gonna have to back away, but he's got a teammate inbound.
This round.
Here comes Bookie. They flash forward. The Slicing Maelstrom, but immediately shut down by the supreme display of talent. A very good ultimate from Desamas to keep himself safe. Buy his team time to exit out of that bot lane. They do not want to fight right now, no sir.
Yeah, Desamas living up to that ultimate's name. Every time it comes down, it's been so impactful. Bookie, man.
And immediately they go back in, they re-engage, but Bookie finds Desamas first. But it doesn't matter. A double kill for Quats. The beneficiary of an aggressive play, a Pop Blossom there from Kaiwing. And that is just, I think, kind of credit. VKS has looked more coordinated each game as it's gone on. And so far, their plays have, I think, mostly been working out. The kill score is relatively even, but the gold lead is about 2K. And a lot of that has to do with how VKS is kind of choosing to play out this map and where they are choosing to fight.
Yeah, and I'm loving the rotations to come through. They've managed to get Quats out of a bad lane. They've got Bull, actually a much better matchup where Enga is running out of mana before Bull runs out of health. And because of that, they're able to actually secure themselves first brick without Herald to boot. This fight, Devis plays it really well. Bookie and Devis, this part is great. It's fine. The problem to me actually comes when the rest of the team starts to show up for Leviathan, and specifically Toplop. The amount of times now we've seen Leviathan walk into dark bushes with no vision is an issue. There's no vision here. Bookie walks in and Toplop overstays his welcome. He's just being punished for being a squishy support and not knowing his limits. When he was on Leona, that's fine. You've got Eclipse, you've got the tank stats. If they engage onto you, you were just burning their cooldowns. As Nami, when they kill you, they're not even burning cooldowns sometimes to make that happen. Kaiwing, he's pretending, he's hiding, he's just brute forcing.
He does get the root down. That's not nothing. That's quite a bit of damage he actually does get onto Toplop, but not much more to come through. The immediately trade back of the culling forces Morteus to arcane shift away. If he were a lesser ADC, he might have needed to flash, but he is Ezreal. And so he just has a flash on a 15, 16 second cooldown.
Yeah, 25 seconds till Dragon starts, and the whole team's already kind of here, jockeying for position over the mid lane, like you called, Bren. Leviathan especially wants to be there first. Ooh, Morteus didn't get hit by CB triple bubble. He lives. It's fine. Lev, I think, has recognized this time that, hey, we are not in position for this. We do have teleport from Devis. We don't have a ward to teleport to on that bot side of the map. There is no flank position here. So they're going to play for the Herald and just first, or not first break anymore, I guess, for their first start of the game on the top side. Instead, give that Dragon over to VKS. They don't want to fight, or they don't want a 5v5 fight. They want a skirmish, they want to pick, and they want face-offs.
Yeah, they're looking to take this tower in the top side. Yes, the Dragon does go over to the side of VKS, but Leviathan able to claw back quite a few. I mean, I don't even want to call them consolation prizes. I think they're happy with what they got. It's the right call on the map. They couldn't have gotten to that Dragon and contested from their position, like you called. There was no flank ward, no real way to engage, and so they're able to get not only a tower but also a Rift Herald, which is essentially gonna be a second tower. I imagine gonna be used here in the mid lane, and that's gonna open up the map even further for them to try and look for things moving forward.
Once again, late assignments being done. VKS responding to having seen Enga on the bot side, and we praise VKS for their ability to kind of get out of rough lanes. And if anything, well, that kind of puts a bit of a spotlight onto Leviathan. They need to find themselves their winning matchups again. CEO and Toplop into Morteus Kaiwing was pretty neutral. CEO was winning that a little bit, but Toplop was kind of losing, so it ends up being fairly net neutral. But they need to get Enga away from Bull.
Can they get away from this Pop Blossom, though? They find their engage onto Toplop. Bull's on the backside trying to get onto CEO, but on the other side, it's Devast and Bookie going forward, and they find Desamas. That's where the bulk of the gold is for VKS, so that's a big kill. They have the Herald down as well, pick up some of the plate gold, and so it's a 1-for-1, but it's your jungler for a support, and you used a lot of resources to make that happen. Kaiwing dropping both the ultimate and the flash.
Yeah, and very late teleport from Quats onto that particular play. He's there to save the turret, which is all good and well, but he wasn't there when they needed him for the extra bit of damage. I hope they show a replay focusing on CEO a little bit, because to me that was the key part of the fight, where CEO actually managed to dodge out on a lot of what Bull was doing. There we go, there's the replay. Yeah, top lot positioning this game has not been ideal. He's getting punished a lot, and CEO dashing out there was huge. But when top lot goes down, it's the rest of this fight. The fact that Bull burnt the call of the Forge God on CEO and missed, CEO just dodging it that easy, allows Devis to run rampant on the backside instead. And we talked about it, a lot of weight on Bull's shoulders to make sure the engages go right, to make sure the team fights go in his favor. If he's burning on a single target and misses, doesn't secure the kill, that becomes a problem at that point. That's what allows Lev to actually win out on the trade. And yeah, I know it's a 1-for-1, but the Samus for top lop is a much better trade in Lev's favor.
Yeah, very, very good. Uses the Relentless Pursuit, like you said, to dodge out on the Pop Blossom, which I think that's like the crux of the play right there. He gets caught by that Pop Blossom. It's super mega over for Leviathan. Is able to just use some fancy footwork to keep that going, keep, you know, Boal just kind of distracted on that bot side. We called it out at the start of the day, right? CEO has kind of been this guy, but they do, both teams kind of burning a big engage ultimate. We have the teleport coming in, CEO taking a lot of damage while over the top. Gonna use the call of the Forge God, trying to find the damage on. They can get it on the bookie, but they cannot get it on the CEO. Health bars are falling lower, but no one's going to die, and everyone's going to back out for a reset here.
And those ultimates, I feel like, are not the same. Bookies being used for repositioning, being used for picks, it's not immediately as impactful as the Pop Blossom from Kaiwing. So Bookie more than happy to trade that. The cooldown on Kaiwing's ultimate is fairly short, though. You can already see it's almost halfway back up. The rest of that fight as well, the moment... Oh, Devis? Devis, fine, okay. The moment VKS couldn't secure those kills once the big ultimates were blown from Bo and Kaiwing, they just have to disengage. They will not win the resulting fight. Enga, does he know he's getting collapsed on?
Has enough wherewithal, does have the control ward as well. Time to get away. While though, eats the slicing maelstrom, does have cleanse available, or just has enough, or no, he just didn't get stunned for very long.
Yeah, the first one, who was kind of just... I thought he cleansed or something. There was a weird animation on the first stun, but yeah, with Kennen, you can apply repeated stuns. They do get shorter in duration, so Bo able to walk that one away, and Quats, with the pressure from the Samus and Kaiwing earlier, is able to secure an outer turn on the top side. Turrets are 2 apiece. Things are still pretty even. Just a 1k gold lead from Cade Stars. But I need to see that start translating into objectives. Dragon up in 30 seconds. Leviathan should contest for this one. I think they're actually strong enough, and more importantly, they're kind of there. They actually have the vision this time to look for the picks.
They have the vision. They have the setup. They want that deep vision to get those sleepy trouble bubbles through the walls. And more than anything, oh my goodness, Morteus catches a Battle Star to the chin. And that's going to make playing out this next fight much tougher, because at half health, he can just get engaged on by, say, Bookie, and that's no more Morteus, or eat another Battle Star, no more Morteus. They have to play very carefully. And this is a Cloud Drake that is coming through, and that is traditionally the most powerful soul in pro play. Has such a high win rate. That extra movement speed is a very, very powerful stat. Allows you to move around the map just with so much more freedom. Allows you to take much safer plays. The calling comes through, doesn't find that much damage. Both teams' health bars kind of looking iffy. You can see Enga's at about half health. A couple of the carries there on VKS. Does not find the Paddle Star. Both teams kind of looking for this time to go in. Call of the Forge God is up. They're sieging this tower. But Devlist, look at him on the flank. Does not get spotted out. Is going to try and come in.
Too deep.
But doesn't find it. Ball's too deep. Doesn't need to even use Slicing Maelstrom. And now it's Leviathan's turn to go forward. They get the shield vault down. Kotz falls, or does not fall. Has 1 HP and is able to pick Lucian off in return. And so both teams down an important member for their fights, and they're just continuing to siege this tower. The dragon has not been started, and VKS just going to take the middle turret, not concerned about the dragon for the moment.
And that is a huge shocker. The fact that Lev just lost in a face-off where they had vision control. They were getting greedy, and CEO getting hit by the Chaos Storm. Actually, Relentless pursued it in, didn't have a way to get back out, and just gets melted. That was what turned the tides. If CEO is alive, they just turn for the dragon right away. And now VKS are going to have the faster reset on this push. Partially because, you know, they did lose Bowl and the rest of them are around. They're going to get there first, get themselves a soul point. And Lev, there's no consolation prize to be had. All their lanes are pushed in, so they can't go for any turrets. They're definitely not strong enough to take Baron at this point. Heck, Lucian is sitting on the Essence Reaver and just the Rapid Fire Cannon, so that's not something used to shred big tanks. And yeah, they have no answer to just losing a face-off, which should have been their winning play.
I'm really surprised that at no point did they have here, because the slicing maelstrom now, but it's a little too late. Lots of damage, but with the supreme display of talent, with the arcane storm, with the call of the Forge God, they do use 3 ultimates to pick off that top laner. Kaiwing will fall across the map trying to get vision so his team does not get absolutely just bamboozled coming into the Baron, but they know that Leviathan cannot stop it. They're going to go ahead and break open some more plates here in the bot side, get some more gold in Katz's pocket. What I was going to say about Devis, I was surprised in that mid lane. He had Flash, he had Slicing Maelstrom, and they were all grouped up. I'm surprised he didn't just send it. Go over the wall, get that stun down. If your team wants to stick around and commit to defending this tower, stick around and commit to defending the tower.
And I wonder if they were just a little bit scared that if they had died there, they'd have lost Baron. And potentially the game would have snowballed out of control. Because right now, 2,500 gold, it is significant for Vivo K-Stars. It is big, but for Lev, it's still playable, and I think that's the concern. Tidal Wave coming out as a response to Top Lop getting caught just warding, guys. And oof, that's a big teamfight ultimate they used to disengage around these neutral objectives.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it didn't even catch Thomas. It didn't do its damage. This almost just takes half of Top Lop's health for free. The supreme display of talent comes in. Bookie is gonna be the victim. He's the first to fall. The Arcane Storm coming over the wall, trying to get the damage onto Seo. But Devas comes back, does get the slicing maelstrom through. The burn damage is not enough. Samus will live. Quacked is going forward. Can he find the damage? Immediately the culling comes through, and it does its job. It calls indeed. Everyone's health bar is so low except for one man, and that's Boal. He takes down CEO, and VKS is going to be more than happy with this fight.
Brandon, if I had any questions or concerns about the mental of VKS, that fight has answered all of it. They were on fractions of health, and it did not matter. Lev was the one who looked completely scattered, and we were talking about the fact that K-Star's composition is a little bit every man for himself. Well, Lev's very much so, and it showed in that fight. Devis goes in with no flash, no proto belt, doesn't even have that item, and everybody was low, but nobody could clean up. And now K-Stars, the Baron they were trying to avoid giving over, has been gifted on a silver platter. The 2,500 gold lead just doubled, and that's before the big push comes in. For Leviathan, it's a game of inches. Right there, if Bookie just steps back 2 more steps, he's fine. Instead, he gets melted, top lop as well. And then this part, Devis wants to go in, but the Chaos Storm from that first kill is just so big. It zones the rest of the team out. Look how low Samus gets. Morteus eats a bit of peripheral damage, and then the rest of this fight, they're all kind of low. The culling here actually almost finds, I believe it was Morteus or Kaiwing on the back end of it. Because, yeah, Morteus.
Morteus arcane shifted forward. I thought it was going to be a triple kill, man.
Yeah, it should have been. Look how low they all are. One more shot from the culling would have finished them off, and that would have allowed Kaiwing. But these fractions are what the game lives on. And now it's not fractions anymore. It's whole numbers, a whole 5,000 gold about to balloon into 6, about to balloon into inhibitor turrets, about to balloon into the Nexus.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of pressure that VKS is stacking up right now. I'm not sure that they're looking to immediately play for this deep in, but maybe not. They get the pop blast of the call of the Forge God. That's a pick, and that means this is free. They have so much space. What do they want to do with the map? They're going to open up the mid inhibitor. Where are they stepping next? Are they going to siege this bot lane?
The minions are okay. Actually, they're closer than I was expecting. They've got to walk that in. That wave is almost gone. 30 seconds onto CEO means 1 wave chance, but the Samus is still threatening in the mid lane. It's not so much that he's threatening the turrets. He's just threatening anybody who steps up in rotation between the Nexus turrets, pardon me, in the mid lane and the bot side turret.
Yeah, not going to give you the option to come and support your team. That means the siege is free. Samus, the spell shield will do its job to keep him safe from Anga. That's a
Oof.
second inhibitor down, and that means VKS have their gamut, whatever they want to do on the
Yeah.
map, they get to go. They're going to go ahead and reset, and I imagine go play that dragon.
But I love that we're setting up Bull as, you know, like the last hope of VKS to kind of bring things back. He right
And
now
then the
has the
whole team's
lowest skill
locked in.
participation. Yeah, he's still 1-1, and it's the rest of the team who's stepping up.
The whole team just locked in, man.
Yeah, and Quats
VKS,
especially.
where has this been?
They needed time to gel together because Quats is having a phenomenal game right now. 5-2-4. His victor was kind of the turning point for a couple of things, right? That Magnet Storm that caught out Bookie, heck, that Chaos Storm that killed CEO on that mid earlier, which was where things really started to slide in their favor. And we talked about the fact that Quats' laning is uninspiring, but give him a late game carry like Victor, and you can see why he was a huge part of the VKS Academy winning squad. Devis now caught on side lane. Bull, what kind of flag is that? Holy!
A Bull tries to step forward on a crazy flank. Does not care about Devis' existence in the slightest. Finds Devis. That's a free snack. I don't even know what that is at that point. It's not a meal. It's certainly just a little snack for this VKS squad. They pick up the souls, and think about how powerful this soul is for someone like the Nico. All that extra move speed, you can drop Pop Blossom and then just sprint in, and they're sieging these base turrets now. This is the last stand of Leviathan. Here comes the call of the Forge God. He gets interrupted by the tidal wave. Very smart, but that does cost them their turrets. The culling comes over the back. Here comes the Pop Blossom. Only finds the one, but it's enough. That's so much damage to come through. They're gonna find Bookie on the back end as well, and Leviathan finally fall. VKS pick up their first game of the series, and a very well played one at that.
And with their backs up against the wall, VKS dig deep, and they dig and find the victory they had within them the entire time. But look at their faces as they walk off there, Bren. They know the job's not done. It's barely starting, and for them, they are still sweating a little bit. Fantastic game though. A fantastic performance from them. And for Leviathan, we said before, 2 games up, they've got a huge margin of error. They can afford to drop a game or two here or there. But they do need to look back a little bit at this game and see what went wrong for them. I don't think it was... like the drop certainly did them no favors, but I don't think they lost straight off draft. It was a lot more little bits of execution, not quite finding their the teamwork, not quite clicking together as a whole.
Yeah, it felt like they were a little bit disjointed, like you said. I think some of the areas where we expected them to have advantages that they created with draft, VKS was able to mitigate those advantages. And so because of that, they were able to then play out, like we said, that late game was so strong for them, that Ornn being able to engage over top became such a big deal. The Pop Blossom finding all of its targets was really, really good. And so, you know, like I said during draft, the draft is kind of crazy. It's kind of, hey, we're going to hands check you. But if it works, it was going to work really well. If not, they still have a couple of games. And that means we've got a little bit more to look forward to. I wonder what the adaptation is, because again, it's full fearless. The composition is going to change very rapidly.
And it's funny because I know that there have been some concerns about Quats' champion pool because he generally likes the late scaling carries, but because it's full fearless, and ironically, because the skillers aren't that much in meta right now, Quats still has picks like Yone, like Azir. Heck, he's got a pocket Vladimir that he's used to wonderful effect in the past before too. So he's got more than enough picks in the tank. Enga is actually the one I'm a little bit more worried about right now because he's been playing meta. I know he's got more picks. I just don't know what those picks are, Brent. Like, I know he's got the Anivia that often gets hovered, but what else does he have? Because now we've seen the Ryze played, the Ori played, the Taliyah played, the Aurora played, the Zoe played. I'm assuming we're going to see Silas continuing being banned, and the Cassiopeia was an answer specifically into the Ryze. Where does Enga go from here? Because if Quats gets his free scaling like he did that game, late games get a lot scarier.
Yeah, the late game's going to get much more difficult if you're going to give over that free scaling. You know, I don't think we've seen Enga have to get pushed. You know, this is our first true best of 5s of the year. I don't know about what they've been doing in scrims, but Enga's, you know, going to be tested here. What champion pool does he have? Like you said, the mid lane going to be an interesting focus. The teams holistically have had an interesting matchup. That being said, we sorry. That being said, both teams really, really, really trying to find an identity, I feel like, this game. And it hasn't come through, but VKS finally starting something. Their team play seemed much, much stronger. Like you said, Quats being, more gelled in with the team. And that means he's got the chance to take it home. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and cut to a short break. We'll be right back for game 4, so do not go anywhere. We have got just a couple more games of League of Legends left in the day. Do not go anywhere. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CBLOL. We've got a little bit of technical difficulties going on, so our lovely faces aren't on screen, but you still get to see some lovely faces, such as Desamus down there, who played exceptionally well in the last game on that Kiana. You can see that's his Kiana stats. He's 26, 4, and 21 on that champion this split. So having an exceptional time of it, and good for VKS that they did, because we were kind of saying, wow, Boal really looks like the only hope this team's got left. And then the entire team decided to really just lock in. It was a very holistic, like, team victory, but it was Desamus that was kind of leading the charge from the jungle. Looking forward, does that continue to be the case? Is VKS gonna have to continue to play around their jungler?
Yeah, and to a certain extent, that's what Desamus was meant to be for this VKS team, sort of the big leader for the team. Unfortunately, it does feel like VKS is more often than not defaulted more towards their support or their bot lanes for leadership. Then we think back to 2024 when Smalley was on this roster, and not just the assistant coach that we saw on the stage there. He was shot calling a lot more than Desamus, and Desamus kind of grew under his mentorship. And then in 2025, it was Trimby who stepped up and came in from EU, and he was the big shot caller. He was a lot more about the macro, and Desamus could act as a secondary. Now with Kaiwing in, Kaiwing is mechanical. Yes, he has great game knowledge, but it's still meant to be Desamus to be the primary in-game shot caller and leader of the team. And on the Kiana, it felt like he was able to do that when he's got a lead. Now, Bren, there aren't a lot of junglers left that can do the same thing as Kiana. Like, we might think of, say, Pantheon as somebody who can get aggressive, get those early ganks, get fed, and then carry a game. Well, he's been played by Bookie, so he's off the table. Kiana's off the table. Desamus, a lot of those carry champions are gone. He's going to have to be able to do this without that. Or, wait, actually, that's still Viego. I know he's not meta, but if that's what works for VKS, that might be an option we see them look towards.
We're gonna have to see how they adapt between games. I think that's one of the things I am very much a VKS, benefit of the doubt believer. I tend to expect that they do adapt as a series goes on and get stronger. They definitely have looked better in each of the games so far. In the first game, they looked very lost. In the second game, it was very close. And in the third game, they finally put together a win. Is it too little too late? We'll have to find out. VKS is going to be on the red side. Once again, Leviathan on the blue side. And the bans coming through as the pools get tighter and tighter are going to get a little bit strange. As you can see, the Lulu is the ban that I'm looking at as interesting.
That was the one I was looking at going like, okay, we're talking about the pools getting tighter and tighter, and they banned a Enchanter off of top. Like, don't get me wrong, but watching Toplop playing Nami did not convince me that his Enchanters are a threat.
Maybe Toplop Lulu is really cracked in scrims. And that's someone I'm actually surprised not only made it through this many games, but made it through bans as well. Bard coming through. I feel like that's been the guy all season. This Bard champion is very good.
To be fair, I don't feel like in Brazil, at least, the Bard has been that big a threat. I think the traditional engage supports have still had a bigger impact for the most part. So, yeah, I think on an international level, it is a bit of a surprise. But on a domestic level, yeah, it makes sense to me in my head that Bard kind of got all the way through. What does surprise me is the Renekton first pick when Leviathan decided to ban Mbessa. Because Renekton is one of the harder lanes for Mbessa to deal with early on. And usually we actually see it as a counter pick. So if you're going to first pick that, well, not first pick, I guess. But if you're going to pick the Renekton that early on, you could have left the Mbessa open.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting. To putting Devast, though, on something that does give him quite a bit of at least early fight power, able to pop the Dominus, go a little crazy with it. But that means that on the flip side, something they had been banning away from Boal, this Jax is the one to come out. And seeing as it had gotten some attention, I believe it has been banned out in 2 separate games. I have to imagine the Boal Jax may be a little scary.
Yeah, for sure. It's another carry champion that Boal can actually do a lot on. I mean, we saw what he was able to do on the Ornn. Imagine what he can do with the real weapon. Not that he has one, because he's Jax. But yeah, the idea is certainly, the concept is certainly there. And because they need a tank, Bren, because they can't get it out of Boal, they're going to pick a Sejuani for only the second time this split. I'm trying to remember. I think was it Desamus who actually ran it?
I will. I'll go. You keep talking. I'll go look.
Okay, you can look that up. But I like the idea, and it partners well with Jax in the top lane as well. Kind of easy to apply those stuns. We do see Leviathan round out their bot lane. We had the Rel, which I like for top lop. I think he's been struggling off his tanks. But Sivir for CO blind is a bit spicy. Sivir will skill up really, really well. It'll cut through the Sejuani very effectively. Spell Shield can help you against Counter-Strike when Jax gets the stun off as well. So in general, I like the idea, but the bot lane matchups can be rough. We're already seeing the Aphelios immediately remove. VKS does not care if CO gets Aphelios, but Leviathan certainly cares if Morteus gets Aphelios.
So I have done some looking, and
Okay.
I have got an answer for you. The person who played Sejuani for the one Sejuani CBLOL game was Curse or
Curse,
Red
yes.
Canids. And so it has a 100% win rate.
Fair. That makes sense. I did think, like, I was thinking, who are the junglers who are willing to flex utility? And I was like, Karyoka, Desamis, and I forgot about Curse. But yeah, it makes sense that Curse did it. He's also got the huge chat pool. Desamis is going to try and kind of imitate that, and we'll see if it works out. Mid laners for both teams have yet to be picked, but oddly enough, zero attention being paid to the mid lane pool. We were talking about, you know, Yone, Azir potentially for Quats, a pocket Vladimir as well. Honestly, with the comp VKS already has, Vladimir might not be the worst idea, especially if they've got a bit of a carry, or actually not even a carry. Like, you could run Misfortune in this composition with the Vladimir, and that would work out for VKS.
You kind of spoke it into existence. No attention being paid to the mid lane. Leviathan said, "Yeah, we're gonna rectify that. We don't like Azir. Get him out of here." And makes quite a bit of sense. I think you know, has the ability to just harass the picks that Leviathan has. Can't, you know, bounce. You can't use your bouncing boomerangs or your bouncing blades off of the sand soldiers. And they're gonna lock in a Trundle, which I think is traditionally a very strong answer into the Sejuani.
Yeah, being able to shred that will help Sivir in turn shred through all of VKS. Trundle as well gets a little bit tanky, bruiserish tanky, same as the Renekton. So by doing this, Leviathan have their three sort of off tanks. They don't need a full tank. They do need damage in the mid lane, or I would like to see them have damage in the mid lane, preferably something with a little bit of engage. I'm not sure what options there are necessary to do that, but yeah, I mean, the Silas is open this time. VKS did not ban it. Oh, they might just pick it themselves. Quats' Silas, I don't know about that one.
We'll have to see. This is, I believe, the first Smolder we are seeing in the CBLOL this split. Smolder's kind of an interesting champ because he feels so terrible for like the entire game, and then he hits the funny little 225 number, and then he instantaneously wins.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, Yone. That's the one that I was expecting to see Quats. Well, I'm much more comfortable with his Yone. Again, the laning phase isn't epic, but he has nailed some really good engages, really strong team fighting to come through from VKS. And for Leviathan, what is the answer here into Yone? You could pick the Silas, but I actually don't like Silas into Yone. I think Yone is actually the winning side of that particular matchup, especially once he gets the Blade of the Ruined King. His sustain is greater than or equal to what Silas can put out. Ari, Brian? What is this? What is this pivot from Leviathan?
Okay. Is Ari an answer to the Yone? Or is Ari there because she's generically strong and just probably won't die to the Yone?
I feel like it's more of the latter than the former a little bit. I don't think of Ari as a counter to Yone in anything except for the early laning phase.
I don't think most people would either, RMC.
Yeah, and then going back to your Smolder point now, this kind of changes the complexions of the compositions a lot because VKS has much better skilling. They've got skilling in all three lanes. They've got themselves a tank. They've got themselves a bard who can engage from far away. Leviathan have Sivir, which is fine. She's great. She skills fantastically. But into a Smolder? Smolder arguably, well, not arguably, he will skill better eventually. It's just a matter of timing. Sivir just gets a lot more bouncing. And with the Ahri as well, I was thinking, like, hey, do you go for a scaling pick in the mid lane to be able to answer? I was even thinking, like, maybe you go for a Syndra to try and maybe find a pick here or there. If you can burst down the Jax, you know, Counter-Strike can only block so much of that damage. It's not a full nullification. It's just a reduction. Or maybe we go for, like, engage option, like something like a Galio potentially. But no. Ahri does a little bit of everything, but not enough of anything. And I'm not like, so Enga's just gonna look for a pick before the fight starts. That's gotta be the play. But who do you even pick is my problem. Like, you're not gonna find, you shouldn't be able to find Morteus and Smolder. Like, finding Kaiwing on Bard, maybe if you find the Jax, I think Bolt would actually turn that fight around.
Yeah, they have a couple of options. You can see they have this sort of kind of pick skirmish-esque composition with the Ari and the Renekton. They can kind of do that. They have the ability to play a fight front to back, again, with the Ari and the Sivir, and the Trundle to an extent. The Rel can be a big engage, and so they have options. But like you said, their comp is very it kind of does a lot of every, or a little of everything and a lot of nothing in particular. We're gonna have to see how it plays out. I think maybe just keeping Enga safe and saying, hey, late game, Enga's just gonna outplay you in a team fight there, Quats. We gave you too much gold when you were on the Victor. We gave you too much push. And if you can't do that, then it's no big deal.
Well, to be fair, Bren, a lot of this series has not hinged so much on the compositions as it has on the decision making and execution. Bo and Devis, you know what? It's not Lovers' Day in Brazil, but that's a sweet Valentine walk the two of them were having. Like long walks in top lane. Like, what are the other sort of things that people? Both of them are 5'8". I'll give them that.
Pina coladas, getting caught in the rain. If you're not into yoga and you have half a brain, I don't know.
Where did that one come from? They are trading they're getting very physical up there for sure.
You never heard the Pina Colada song, RMC?
Oh. Not about half a brain.
I'm pretty sure that's a lyric in that song. I'll serenade you later. Worry not. In the top lane though, we are getting some trades that rush to level 2. It is Ball that will hit it first. They kind of. Renekton, I kind of just expect to win any lane early, but, you know, Jax, no slouch, can kind of just hands check you, can't outplay that Renekton if it comes to it. Meanwhile, in the other lanes, kind of just proceeding as expected, the push coming from Leviathan in both mid and bot.
And we're seeing both junglers, I think, recognize that top side can be volatile very early on, so both of them are actually pathing to this top side. I say that as Bookie's not going top side, he's going to invade. Bookie.
Yeah, he's gonna invade because he is Bookie and he's like legally required. It's in his contract actually that he has to invade. Does not find the red buff to steal away. So just gonna go ahead and walk back on home. He's just gonna take his ball and he's gonna go home. Here in the mid lane though, both mid laners falling fairly low. It is, however, Kotz that has the Doran's shield that will come out much healthier from these trades. Trying to just find that slight advantage. The wave kind of sitting here in the middle of the lane. Samus is here. They don't have vision.
And part of this is because Bookie went for that invade. He's actually behind in pathing, significantly behind. The Samus is able to just smite that away.
Secures the scuttle. Or Samus is actually able to steal it away with the smite, but now it's Boal who has stepped down. Is going to get engaged on here. Finds the Counter-Strike stun. A flash to come through for Bookie, but Boal is going to ward hop out. And if your cooldowns you're trading are flash for stealth ward, I think you'll take that.
Very much so. Unfortunately, Pillar of Filth not available. He used it on that scuttle earlier, so didn't have it. Continue to invade. Bookie is doubling down. I am not convinced.
And not convinced indeed, as the melee auto is going to pack up that stun. First blood for Boal, and you don't want to see that if you're Leviathan, because the advantage that Devast has is simply how strong is Renekton before everyone has items. He's just generically really strong as a champion. If you give Boal the gold to pick up a Claw of Armor here, to pick up some extra components and beat Devast in lane, if Renekton's not good early game, when is he good?
That's the problem for this Leviathan comp in general. If you're not going to win late, you have to win early. And you look at the individual lanes, Brent. Devast was winning out prior to that. In fact, the pressure from Bookie, burning his flash, trading that was not ideal, but at least it got Devast a little bit of breathing room. In the mid lane, Enga is beating Quats over the head with just minions over and over again. He's multiple waves up. You were winning that lane. Heck, even the bot lane CEO was winning out over on Mortea. Smolder really struggles early, whereas Sivir, well, she's not strong at trading. She can shove lanes like none other right from the get-go, right from the rip. So Lev was winning across the board. And then Bookie decided, nah, fam, we want to do this in hell mode. We got to make this entertaining. Here, I'll give first blood over to Ball, and I'll set myself further and further behind so that things are equal.
Yeah, you can see that not only did he give first blood over to Ball, but like you said, set himself behind. At one point, had like 15 farm, and Desamas was like backing with 30.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate for Leviathan. So they are set behind here, just in terms of just the map state, the way it's being played out. But it is not over. Like I said, Renekton still exceptionally strong, just as a champion in this laning phase. Sivir and Ari both going to continue to have constant push in their lanes. We do see Desamas is a backup on this top side. The Grub's not up for another 2 minutes, so he's only here to pay attention to Devast and Boal.
Very interesting rotation coming through from top lop. He's actually moving into this top lane right now with Bookie in pocket. They've got double control wards as well, so they know Desamas isn't behind them. They just don't know where Desamas is.
Don't know where Desamas is, but they're going to try the dive anyways. The Counter-Strike to come through. They get the passive stacks down. Can they get the stun? They do get one under tower, but Toplop very nicely juggling the tower aggro. And that means even with Desamas, taking a lot of time to hover Boal there, they are still able to get a very successful dive, pick up that kill. It goes on to Bookie, who I think will be pretty happy to make up for his earlier mistake.
Yeah, very impressed with this dive. I think despite the fact that Lev has won the first 2 games, this looks like the cleanest dive I feel like we've seen from them so far. As you mentioned, the aggro, they were able to bait out the Counter-Strike without getting turret aggro at the point, so Toplop able to just happily start that one up and let Bookie and Devis actually do the damage. Teleport from Kaiwing into the mid lane. They're looking for pressure. Kaiwing just left the mid lane as well. Spirit Rush being used by Enga. Is it enough to find Quats?
Quat's gonna get healed, misses the Fate Sealed, and that means Enga just gonna walk away for free. The unsealed spellbook teleport being used, and it was a good flank. The shrine there from the Bard, able to do a good job keeping him healthy, but ultimately, when you miss that big ultimate, that's really what we're gonna remember from that play.
Yeah, and on top of that too, like what happened before this play too was Kaiwing was already sitting in the mid lane, dropped 2 health relics in the mid lane, recalled, and then TP right back in the mid lane. So this has been a bit of a 2v1 against Enga just to keep Quats afloat. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think you do actually need to babysit your Yone in a tough matchup like this till he gets that one item. Once he gets bait over the Ring King, it isn't an auto win into Ari because of sort of her power curve. Her one item power spike is also pretty strong. But at least you start having kill threat at that point with the Fate Sealed. If that Fate Sealed landed from Quats, not going to lie, I don't think he kills anyways. At least he's just looking to trade even on that. As it stands, no teleport, very little health, very rough position for Quats, and Kaiwing has to go home. You can't be leaving Morteus for such a long time, especially when you don't know where Bookie might be.
Yeah, you don't know where Bookie is, but having considered how much attention Kaiwing has been paying to the rest of the map, Morteus keeping up surprisingly well. The farm relatively even, the gold lead not particularly large in that lane. It is the largest individual gold lead between any 2 positions, but it's still fairly small here about 8 minutes into the game. Only, 1 longsword worth of gold, which might matter, but ultimately probably won't too much. You see that Toplop is now here in the mid lane. The Grubs have been started up by Bookie, and the game is beginning to begin in earnest.
Yeah, Dragon should be sort of the next thing on the chopping block, but despite the fact that Cade Stars have the vision control, they don't feel comfortable going for it right now because that is still a smolder in the bot lane, and Sivir can get that shove. We've seen CO almost perma push in that situation. Now Bookie sees the ward, does not care. Kaiwing is racing up here. He's got his ultimate available. They've just turned on Kaiwing.
They're not looking for Boal. They're looking for Bookie. They do get the engage onto him, but Desamas coming to the rescue. But there's too many members here. The Fate Sealed only connects on one. A bit of anti-synergy. The unfortunate timing on the Bard ultimate kind of keeps everybody safe from Quats. And that means they're going to have to try and disengage this, but Quats still around. He's in the jungle, and he's going to struggle to get away. Luckily, has enough healing, enough shielding to keep himself safe, but kind of a disjointed fight. Just as we were praising VKS for finally putting together, looking like they were a nice gelled team, they have a bit of a miscommunication there in that top fight.
Fate was apparently not sealed when it got tempered. That was a really rough one to watch. Yeah, it was tempered, not sealed. Yeah, that really hurts. The fact that Bookie gets away, and Bookie too was still trying to do Krugs on the back end of it on low health, playing with fire. Speaking of playing with fire, once again, in a 1v2 situation, Enga pushing them out. So I really respect this. The immediate turn onto Kaiwing, because they recognize that Kaiwing's a lot squishier, and Devis's job was just to buy time. Both mid laners do roam up, but this is a different... Oh my goodness. So it did actually catch somebody. Enga got caught. Enga does not care. This is sort of the power difference between Enga and Quats here. Quats shows up, and even if he gets the Fate Sealed, it doesn't change too much. He doesn't have his first item yet, whereas Enga doesn't need first item. Just with the components, the Blasting Wand, as well as the Lost Chapter, both have AP on it, enough to be able to turn and influence that fight. Now, I will say as well, that topside fight does not change things as much as it could have or should have, because Lev had to commit a lot to make that happen, and they didn't. They only got the 1 kill when all was said and done. Devis, he doesn't have flash. Does he know? He suspects. He doesn't have ult. He's dead.
He suspects, does not have ult, though, is getting stunned up. No escape there. That's a shutdown into the hands of Boal, who's now going to pick up himself some plate gold as well and even out the gold lead in that lane. So now it is dead even once again in that top side, mostly even in this game. Only 600 gold separates our two teams right now.
I'm really surprised that Bookie just opted to recall when that play happened. Oh, Enga just barely got tagged, top lop in pocket.
And that Kaiwing does find the stun. A charm, though, from Enga. The Magnet Storm over the top. They got a little confident. Just because you hit one stun doesn't mean you're doing any damage. You are a no items Yone and a Bard, which means you fall pretty quickly to the Magnet Storm into that Orb of Deception, hitting all that damage on. They got the charm as well. VKS, I'm not really sure what they were thinking. Once you got the charm, once you saw that you got the Spirit Rush out, I call that a win. I back away.
Agreed. And I think Kaiwing did not understand the assignment. Their job is to keep Quats alive. It is not to try and make plays just yet.
Morteus gets flashed on, dodges the stun, but will still get connected to by the crash down, buys himself some time with Mom over the top, but here comes the pillar, and Bookie picking up another kill, using the Pillar of Ice, getting inside, drops the chomp, and that's free. That's again another snack over. This time it's going to Leviathan. Gonna pick up that early kill onto the Smolder, prevent him from, being in lane, prevent him from stacking. This is not a good look for VKS to start.
And it's just really rough for Morteus. He was doing so incredibly well prior to that. Finally, the gank comes off and he calls for Mom, but it's Bookie who's picking up. And Bookie getting the Dragon off the back of that too. I was actually about to criticize Dragon going to 11 minutes, not focused on by either team. And Bookie, when they saw the Samus show up topside, Bookie should have just immediately made a beeline for Dragon. He was roughly in the area, didn't go for it, but it ends up actually working out for them since they're able to shut Morteus down a little bit, slow him down, get the Dragon instead. And now Lev have finally found that advantage in the early game that we were looking for from them. They've got themselves a 3,000 gold lead, pre-14 minutes. That's pretty significant. They need to snowball. We've seen this plenty of times from Leviathan. They get the early game lead. Their comp demands it, and they cannot afford for this to go late. The later it goes, the harder it's going to get.
Harder it's gonna get. They find another good Pillar of Ice, the Magnet Storm to come through. Kaiwing gonna try and run away. Can he get the stun outside? Does not have it, and that means he's gonna fall once again. It's very, very unfortunate time. Tries to just come out and get vision out to cover this top side where his team is hovering. But when he does, immediately caught out by the Pillar of Ice, and good positioning from Bookie on the Pillar of Ice. We criticized Bookie kind of being a psychopath early on in the game and just doubling down into invading constantly. But he has since, gotten his act together and been playing much more responsibly and picking up quite a few kills for his team.
Yeah, the line between inting and genius is very thin, Brent. When you're losing, it's inting. When it's working, you're a psychopath in a great way. Bull should be able to get out of this one. Absolutely no problem. What I actually find funniest in that particular sequence was when Kaiwing actually opened up the portal right to Morteus. Because there's a second where I think Lev was like, wait, did we just turn and kill Morteus here? And Morteus like desperately just flapping his way over a wall, and they went, nah, we want Kaiwing. We'll just finish off Kaiwing here. Normally, yeah, you want to go to your buddies, but maybe not to your squishy baby dragon AD carry who's still looking to scale at this point.
Yeah, he's still looking to scale indeed. You can see he's just about at that 125 mark for his stacks, which is one of the big break points in that kind of mid-game stacking for the Smolder. being able to get the explosion off of the back of the Qs, the extra projectiles that comes out, helps him stack even faster. So Morteus not in a bad position, all things considered, but the team as a whole is looking a little rough. Having used the Fate Sealed defensively is Quats, another pillar of ice and a great position from Bookie.
I think the bigger problem is we're 15 minutes in, and Quats still hasn't completed first item. Like, I don't count the Berserker's Graves.
As we see, we have a dive here on the bot side, and it's working out quite well. Juggling that tower aggro between two fairly tanky members, both Boal and Desamus, able to get that kill, get out with relatively little risk, and Quats comes down afterwards to get that side lane push. So since he didn't take any damage executing that dive, he is now able to try and get some plate gold off of those turrets. Has to be careful, though. Here comes Toplop. Does find the Magnet Storm, but Quat's going to use the Q3 to get away.
Yeah, nice dash out. Doesn't even have to burn flash. Is going to be good. Hopefully that will be enough for Quats to get the Blade of the Ruined King. There we go. It's completed. He can finally start playing League of Legends instead of farming Simulator and Dodgeball. For VKS, though, 3,000 go down at this point. They do have to be a little bit careful how they look for their engages. Ideally, they want a numbers advantage, or they want to be able to catch a squishy right from the get-go, and Leviathan is going to make that hard. Enga has been quietly playing a phenomenal game as well, just crushing the mid lane. He's up a ton of CS. He's got that Malignance as well. And for Leviathan, I'm actually going to be looking at Enga to pilot these mid-game skirmishes. He's got to be looking for picks on the side. He's got to be looking for flank angles. If he's going in the front, he might not be able to find priority targets, and he might not have the relevance he needs to have during his power spike.
Yeah, gotta try and continue to push forward, make some progress where they can. The wave's kind of getting pushed in here. You can see the bot wave is getting pushed in. Mid is kind of meeting in the middle once again, but look how quickly CEO can clear it to shove it back in. This constant shove is becoming very tough for VKS to deal with, because even if they can get the minions, they cannot do anything to, get to the objectives afterwards. A good Tempered Fate to stop the charge. That means Leviathan's just going to back out, drop, hit the Herald into the wall, and let Shelly try again.
I think they were looking to see if they could potentially get an engage using Shelly as the engage vehicle. Not quite able to find it. That's fine. It bought them enough time to hopefully actually be able to get Dragon. I actually don't know the status of the Dragon. They've been there for quite a bit, but it's just Bookie. Nobody helping him. There we go. There's the Dragon secured. A very slow Dragon, Bren, very slow stacking because they took the first one at 12 minutes. Like, Lev is there on spawn. It's just, if they're looking at that for their win con, I'm a little bit concerned it won't get there in time, and we're going to see Quats and Morteus be fully online. Bull is already becoming an issue. That in the picture-in-picture, Bull was already starting to win the 1v1 against Devist, which is a bit of a danger marker, because now Enga might actually have to go and answer that lane instead, and I don't know. I could see a world in which Bull actually just finds the engage into Enga, especially the moment the charm's down.
Yeah, it's gonna be really tight margins, right? Enga kind of has to keep the Spirit Rush up, just because of later on when these groupings start to come through, how many different people can just come and cause problems. But it is now Boal. He has to use the Grandmaster's Might, has to use the Counter Strike, has to use the Flash, gets away. But on the flip side, on the other side of the map, there's no more Quats. That guy's just gone.
True. Yeah, unfortunately for Quats, even with the Blade of the Ruined King, simply cannot match Enga right now. Enga with the Shadow Flame as well. That crit absolutely hurt, and that gank from Bookie making all the difference. We saw the Samus kind of in the area, but he was a little bit too late to save Quats, and that means that he was just not in position whatsoever to stop this mega push from Devis onto Bookie, almost finding that tier 2. Tempered Fate used to maybe just try and look for a pick. Wasn't able to find anything. That's a big ultimate down for the next minute.
Yeah, the ultimate going to be down. Just fired it blind, like you said, looking for a pick. Maybe someone, caught shopping, trying to back in that bush or something, but does not find what he needs to. BKS, to their credit, they've gone down fairly early here, but the gold lead has not ballooned so far out of control, but 4,000 is still a very tough position to be in. They do have their smolder stacking up. They are going to be stronger later, but they might get to a position where the neutral objective, the map pressure they've given up, to get to this strong position is just too much. And I do believe did see, maybe not. Maybe they do not know
I
about
don't
this
think they
Thomas
did.
Well. No, the flash out, the glacial prison doesn't matter. Dashed away. Very
TP?
good reaction from Enga. Now Enga's the one going forward, catches the charm. Desamas is in a bad position because here comes Devas, gonna get his damage down. Now they're on the run away. The Magnustorm over the top, and it's Leviathan picking up 2 more kills, picking up more map pressure. An ill-advised engage from VKS, and a great just mechanical play from Enga. That could be the Baron.
Yeah, it's just going right into a 20-minute Baron. The first one this series, Baron. We've seen them start up the Baron multiple times, try and take it, and it's never worked before. The threats were always too big, but this time, there's no tank, there's no approach, there's no jungler, there's no risk for Leviathan to start this up. And Quad's desperately trying his best on the bot side to find whatever silver lining he can. He got the outer turret. He's going to get damage onto the inner turret, but he's going to get pushed off by Devis. And Leviathan, 20 minutes in, 21 minutes with a Baron power play. This is the best mid-game, I want to say, that we've seen from them so far.
Yeah, I was just talking about how VKS has not let the lead balloon too far out of hand, but this is their time to do it. Leviathan now have the Baron power play, are going to get the push into mid. This reaction is so good. How did Enga get away there? And then recognizing, hey, the teleport's coming in. I just got to buy time. And yeah, that charm hitting Boal just means no one can be ready for Devas to come in. It means Desamas is essentially facing them all alone. And just great team play from the side of Leviathan, who now pick up their first tower in the mid lane. You saw it in that picture-in-picture down there. And CL is not pleased.
No, and the thing too is, I suspect Enga at least suspected if he didn't know that there was a gank at that top side. Because you can see the hesitancy in which he walks up to that lane. He's ready at any second to just turn around. And that charm really stood out to me as well, because Desamas, I think, was trying to screen for Boal, and Boal could just kind of hop away onto him and then keep running. But because the charm landed onto Boal, he had to stick around. There was no choice. And that results in 2 kills, which means no shot at trying to stop Baron. And now the brute force from Leviathan coming through. Like, yeah, we know you're here. We're, as 5 into your 4 with the turret, but we can take this. And we want to get all this standing gold. We want to accelerate as much as possible. And 20 seconds as Dragon is spawning as well, Lev should be able to pick up Dragon's soul point, with no contest whatsoever. They've got the lanes pushing for them. They're still strong. They still have the buff, and Burn buff doesn't just help you push. It gives AD and AP too. Not a huge amount, but enough that VKS behind should not be even thinking about trying to contest this Dragon.
Yeah, it's going to be super duper tough for VKS to find something on the map. They're going to send Quats over into the side lane, start shoving some waves, at least find something elsewhere. But that Dragon's going up for free, and because of that, they don't need all of their members there. Enga just gonna immediately clear that wave. Side laning, essentially doing nothing here for VKS. That is, like you said, soul point is a chem tech soul, and gonna be really tough for VKS to find an angle here. The gold lead is going up. You can see it up to nearly 6K now.
1,300. Actually, it was only 1,300 Baron power play. I thought it was more, given how aggressively Lev pushed out. But to be fair, Kate Stars did manage to shove out waves as well. So all that gold from those waves probably helps pad that stat a little bit in VKS's favor. Now, like you said, Kate backs her up against the SuperBren. They need to start playing the game. They need to start making things happen. But I don't know if they can, because they're a little bit behind. Desamas is squishier, I think, than he wanted to be. Heartsteel with only 38 stacks feels really bad. Is that Bandle Pipes as well, second item? Yeah, he's super squishy. And Bookie is going to shred even more with that Subjugate. So for VKS, they have to kind of just play defense. I don't think they get to play offensively anymore. And they've got to look for kind of Lev to make a mistake in their rotations, maybe lane assignments. And it's even with a 1-man advantage, I don't know if that converts anymore. I think they need to actually be a 5v3 to comfortably win a fight. In a 5v4, I could see Lev stalling out long enough for the backup to arrive and then just cleaning up the fight.
And now VKS does have kind of their shining hope, their glimmering grace that could get them through this game. Morteus has stacked up high enough that he does have the burn, he does have the execute online. And we know how strong that a Smolder can be at this late game. Has 3 items, has the rapid fire cannon for the extended Q range to try and get that extra damage. But if with this composition that Leviathan have, they have so many tools that they can get onto that smolder, and if they do, he just is gonna pop like a grape.
I don't know why I have this image of this like bloated grape floating around with wings when you say it's gonna
with little tiny dragon wings.
Yeah, I think like floating grape. But yeah, I agree with you. Actually, that's a great point because now Morteus has range issues as well. Like you talked about, Devis is going to be diving that backline. We talked about Enga, and Enga quietly has been having 4-0-2, a super clean game, and that's. We talked about wanting to see him in skirmishes, being able to kite around the fights. He's done just that. Heck, that topside fight was him baiting it out, kiting around perfectly. So if he's able to do that, you're right. Morteus probably isn't going to get to stand there and free fire. He's going to call mom once, maybe spit out at a snot one time in that fight, and then he's just going to be forced out. Not to mention the bouncing boomerangs from CEO. We're very focused on Morteus in terms of being a win con and sort of the timer on him. But CO as well, 3 items with that Sivir is going to rip right through fights. Quats is going to struggle. Kaiwing might struggle as well. Quats goes in. It's a nice chunk of damage, half health Bookie, but then he's now forced out and Bookie is going to heal up in the jungle.
Yeah, Bookie probably not too concerned about taking that, though it did get a chance for Disamus to get away without being fully engaged on, lets them clean these waves, and the longer they keep Leviathan here, the more time Boal has to do his thing before Devust can show up. And even in that 1v1, while I would say is favored at this stage, they find the Glacial Prison, but nothing off the back of it.
And the Glacial Prison is huge. That's the primary team fight tool that they're looking for. Tempered Fate might set you up, but it is Glacial Prison that actually lets you choose that fight. So with that down, VKS probably going to just have to sit back, just focus on clearing out waves. But to their credit, they've been doing that well. And since Baron has gone down, since the Baron buff has worn off, Leviathan's not been able to make any significant headway.
Yeah, they're not getting that much more push. VKS just doing what they need to do. We know we do eventually outscale, right? Eventually, yes, the Sivir does get strong late, just like the Smolder does, right? Yeah, more items, more marksmen, more good. But on the flip side, they effectively have a melee champ that's building marksman items and will scale in a very similar fashion in that mid lane. And their top laner as well. I would say that Jax is going to be much stronger in the late game than Renekton could ever hope to be. And so if BKS can just continue to buy the time, maybe it's like Loud, right? They need to get to 28 minutes is the funny Loud number?
Yep. I don't know if Kate is
almost there.
Oh,
a Tempered Fate onto 1. They are taking a bit of damage from the Baron, but have not decided to get off of it yet. You can see that Devust is pushing there in the picture-in-picture. Both top laners are behind each other. Here comes the teleport from both of them.
Oh no, Quats.
Quats haven't used the Fate Seal defensively. It's VKS who are on the back foot. Note both teams trying to look for that engage. They finally found Disamus. That might be what they need. There's the Magnet Storm coming through, but Quats gets a kill onto the Sivir. That's a lot of damage to go down, but in exchange, they lose their Smolder, and it is VKS scattered to the winds. Boal can't do much. Kaiwing all alone, gonna get killed by Enga, and even though they lose their Sivir, they get 3 in exchange. That's gonna be the Dragon Soul over to Leviathan.
We hit the point of the game, Brent, where Baron... The big purple worm is a worm on a hook, and Lev are fishing for VKS. They are more than happy to kind of repeat that action again. They will happily go back to Baron. They don't have to take it. But if Kate is just running to them, trading 3 for 1 every time, absolutely worth. To be fair as well, that fight could have gone a lot worse for VKS. Quad actually lives, and he does find CO on the back end of it. He manages to find the re-engage despite having to blow the ultimate very, very defensively. And I think part of that is also because Bookie, was very shredded, had to be a little bit careful how he engages, didn't want a front line from the get-go, and nobody was peeling for CEO. So Quats and Bull find the angle. Bull is kind of not really able to get in the fight. CEO goes down, but the fight's kind of over because they're rolling his backline. And by the time Bull realizes that, he's like, well, yep, I'm finally here, guys, and I'm just going to piece. Like, I cannot fight this. Kaiwing going down, icing on the cake. Quats living was probably the silver lining.
Yeah, I was surprised that it wasn't even paying attention to Quats. As soon as he used that ult defensively, I thought for sure he was done with the fight. I'm sure a few Leviathan members might have thought the same thing because he just came back in, flashed on the CEO, and got that pick. Like you said, it kind of a silver lining. That is the Soul
Oof.
going over. VKS has picked up no neutral objectives. The Tempered Fate goes wide. They're looking for maybe a play in this mid lane, but there's nothing to be found. They are searching and searching and not coming up with much in for it.
Track Devis, he's looking for a flank right now, and he's not been spotted for a PKS, so they have no clue that the Croc is waiting on the side. Vision being cleared, and right now VKS realize that, hey, we need some vision behind us. Now they'll spot out Devis, but they have been pushed. Bull is sitting in Lev's blue buff.
Just hanging out.
Really,
over
Bookie
there.
finds this. Bookie! He's gonna push!
Bookie doesn't know!
Bookie!
This is evil. This is scary and evil, and Bookie's not checking the push. RMC.
That's hilarious.
The Paul has nerves of steel.
Thumbs up. Somebody needs to check this. Pop the scryers. No way.
They don't care. They don't care. Crazy Boal flank. Crazy Boal flank. Is he just sitting in the enemy jungle? But he's so far away. He's so far away. It doesn't matter. Where's your dragon gone? Oh no. Oh no, indeed. As Boal just sits there, holds his nerve, is not scared away. But they said, guys, Boal's not here to help his team. Let's just kill his AD carry.
Yeah, Boal is.
Don't know where that guy is, but
he's off on Mission Impossible. He's doing the toughest thing ever, right? He's looking for the Mondo flank angle with the Jax, and then his team is just blowing up the base while he's out. They're setting the house on fire, like Morteus. And the sickest part is, Bren, 2 games ago, how did game 2 end? Morteus getting caught out in a position where just why? I hope they give us a replay, because we were all watching Bull. We were so focused on that. I didn't see how Morteus got into the position he did, where he's
Morteus was
literally
dead by the time I cared about it.
Yeah, he was in a corner next to Devis. Like, how? Devis didn't blow flash, so I'm really confused the chain of events that led to this. Oh,
the stun, the crash down. Sejuani's more than tanky enough, but it does interrupt the back, buying more time for Leviathan to continue sieging with this Baron power play. And man, sometimes when VKS loses, they just lose big. They're down nearly 9K now. 8,500 gold is the gold lead. Again, not a single neutral objective has been secured by VKS this game. Every single neutral camp has gone over to Leviathan. Look at the total damage. It's still Devast leading the way, because at this point, the scaling doesn't matter because you're still getting wallet diff. Like, you're down half an item across the board at least. And what do you do?
Okay, TP from Bull.
You roll, they find some damage. The dragon is getting his stacks in, is getting that burn down while forcing CEO out. CEO having to run away. The thumbs up coming out, but that means that's another shutdown. Therefore, Morteus rather. Now they finally get on to Boal, but he's gonna pop the counter strike. Can he do anything? Gets a good stun down, hops to a teammate. Boal trying to get away, but isn't gonna find it. Does finally get killed, but he bought a lot of space. That was his job. That's 2 kills there over to VKS, one of which critically going to Morteus, who needs to truly step up for the rest of this game. As we go later and later, it is more and more about, can the Smolder just melt everyone down before the team fights can truly start in earnest? Can he get that long range burn going?
And this teleport from Bull that came through, I don't think they actually saw it, because Devis is very late to the rotate, and Enga is actually the one who's left to dry. Enga was left with the very unenviable job of trying to stop everybody and buy space. That, Kaiwing, okay. Yeah, that stun from Kaiwing was absolutely critical, and if that doesn't land, I think Enga actually would have gone out the back end of it. What's actually a little bit baffling to me was this play. While this play was happening, look at the teleports that are happening on the minimap. Quats makes a call to push that top lane. And Kaiwing actually also teleports towards the top side, not all the way, but like a mini teleport towards the jungle. So that's both teleports down at this point. Leva going to feel a lot more comfortable about playing sideways and try and find somebody. Kaiwing, the pillar's blocking Kaiwing!
He can't get into his magical journey because of the pillar. Dude, the MVP of this game isn't Bookie, it's Bookie's E key, man. His pillar of ice has been perfect every time.
I actually took me a second to figure out what was going on there. I was like, why are they zooming in on Kaiwing flexing? Like, Kaiwing's just trolling, right? And then I realized, no, he's not. He's actually just stuck. Quats out.
As they're going to try and get the mom over the top, can they find that getting some good damage in? Quads tries to go
What?
forward and gets popped like a grape. No more Quads. It's Morteus getting some damage down. Devas with a huge shield, though. And they do come out neutral for it, VKS, it must be said, but they lost another member there in that trade. A little bit more gold over to Leviathan, but not for nothing. Here comes Ball on those side lanes, getting that push
Elder
in, picks up a tower. And Elder is started up. Good call, RMC. Can they even engage this, RMC?
They have to. And on the Hunt's almost back up. That'll be the only ultimate. They're looking for CEO. They've gone on Enga instead.
Can they get him? They're trying to get in. Boal pops the stasis, but he gets CC'd all the way through. They lose 2 members. Kaiwing on the backside. Morteus is on the backside as well. Everyone's on the backside, RMC. No one's where they're supposed to be. And that means the Elder Drake gonna be free for the taking for Leviathan. And I think that's as much as they wrote in this game. Perhaps, maybe, can he get away? No, he cannot. That's a double kill for Devast. And that means it's just Cats left in the base. Can he keep his team alive? I have some serious doubts, my friend.
This is game. This is going to be game. 40 seconds on Morteus, 30 seconds on Desamis. Quad soloing this. He's not in a good position. He's so squishy. And look, we were talking all game. Morteus, when's he going to grow up the execution? Well, it's Elder time, baby. And Elder's threshold is so much higher. Leviathan, in 4 games, secure their survival win in the first round of the lower playoff bracket.
And I gotta say, that game, I felt like VKS was playing better and better every game, and then that was the worst game from VKS. Worse than game 1, I think, by a significant margin, because they just had no map pressure at any point.
Yeah, and you saw Quats there, you know, kind of pressing his hands to his head. I think he knows that he just cost them game 4. It was his Yone re-engaging after he got off the Magnet Storm, him getting popped that led to that Elder call. It was a 5v4. VKS could not get that. They were just praying for a miracle steal from the Desamis, and Lev saw the angle. They made the right call. They had the numbers advantage, and that helps them survive. VKS and Leviathan, 2 teams that don't have any sort of rivalry, hardly any history. Leviathan only joining the LTA South, or CBLOL, as it was last year during the LTA South merger. And they've met VKS 3 times in best of 3s up to this point. This is number 4. They won in split 1 last year. Then they lost 2-0 in splits 2 and splits 3. In their first best of 5 meeting, it will be Leviathan once again walking away with the win and shutting VKS down.
Yeah, it's not a happy Valentine's Day for VKS, but it was a wonderful carnival for Leviathan there, as they pick up another series win to keep themselves alive in the playoffs. This is elimination. VKS going home. That's it for them. We will not see them again until the next split. And top to bottom, I think even though VKS gave us some things to be excited about, that last game for me, it made me so much more excited about Leviathan, because that's what we've been wanting to see from them, right? Take an early advantage and then just close out the game. They never gave VKS a chance. And because of that, I think I wanted to see one of these teams win the series convincingly. We saw that. Maybe they've got at least something, some sauce that they can give to Furia.
Yeah, and especially Bookie and Enga, I think in this last game, their performance was absolutely massive. You give the MVP to Bookie's Iki that game, friend. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. That says a lot about how Bookie was performing that game. And Enga's Ari as well, I think, was huge and critical. Yeah, he got tagged by the stun from the Bard in the second last fight, but that was, I think, one of his only 2 deaths or something like that. Like, Enga just ran that map. It was a huge threat. I doubted his Ari. I apologize, Enga. I was not familiar with your game. And going forward, they get to go up against Furia tomorrow. So no rest for the weary for Leviathan, up against the Furia, who is frankly watching this series and probably thinking, okay, we think we can take this. Furia is really strong. They don't want to be here, and they're going to want to run right through.
Yeah, Furia going to have to, I don't think they're going to have to play their best, but there is still a chance Leviathan has something to give. But Furia is, I think, very happy with their position. They like the way these games are going to play out. But there's only one way for us to find out. That's going to be tomorrow. RMC, do you happen to know who's going to do in the cast tomorrow?
Ooh, that's a good question. It is going to be Rude and Trajan tomorrow, with Dia handling production. So a lot of the OG crew coming through.
So we're going to have a wonderful best of 5 tomorrow. But that means it is pretty much time to wrap up here for today. We at least had some fun and exciting games, to say the least. Make sure, if you want to keep up with the CBLOL, we have a community Discord that you can join. Make sure you follow here on Twitch. It's where we stream all of our games. And go over to our YouTube channel. We have a weekly podcast that will come out. We also keep all of the VODs there if you want to go rewatch. Podcast Gringos Liberados. This guy is on it, RMC on it most weeks. Gonna tell you about how the games go. You get to ask some community questions. We've got lots of stuff going on. RMC, you got any final words for us before we let out and we let everyone get to their Valentine's Day dates that I'm sure they have coming up very soon?
Yes, very much so. Shout out to our production for today as well, RareAdam, Bren, for joining me and flexing today. Actually, he's normally a color caster and our community manager. Thanks for all of you for joining us as well. And today was fun. Tomorrow should be funner.
So thank you all so much for watching. We will see you signing off for CBLOL. Have a great rest of your day.